buddy, my buddy and me.
Telecommunications Act of 1996.
96, y'all.
Gonna filter your eyes and scrub your mind. The weatherman, he's just another bad joke. You can be a dumb little donkey like Eeyore. I'm a beyond auto hoax, and it feels so good. You just ought to believe everything like I knew that you would. In my dream, you know I ain't got time for another crisis actor with soulless eyes. No heart, ain't got no soul. Weather, books, TV, bones, secrets, symbols, numbers, planets, etc.
Alright, so that's Chief Crow and the Flat Earthworms, Flat Earth Radio. I didn't even know I had it on still. And that was just playing when I stepped in here. I walked into the room and it's Chief Crow. So I sent out a notification to everyone on Patreon that we'd be live after I premiered yesterday's Flat Earth Report. And so today, January the 8th, 2020, the title is Donald Trump on Drugs? Kind of a rhetorical question. The question is, what kind of drug cocktail has created this monster? I've noticed he has a hard time putting his face on. He only covers about one hemisphere of his head. Like, it ends right there. Which, you know, to me, I don't know if it's sabotage. Someone said he fired his makeup artist. I don't know. The way his tongue is kind of sticking to the roof of his mouth. And this is what people are remarking on. It looks like, not cotton mouth, but it's a particular effect you get when you've OD'd on adrenochrome. And I'm thinking they might have harvested the general's pineal gland and added that into his drug cocktail. Like, this might be an adrenochrome junkie. I don't know. I'm not an expert on it. Called the DEA. So let's go ahead and start with this. I don't know what you think about these folks. There's a little crew of people who have assembled around this notion that we don't have the right to be wrong. And so they're kind of aggressive in their criticisms, but it's just criticism. And I'll be honest, they sound like a bunch of, I don't know, the best I can describe it, I would almost describe them as like pirates or robbers or something. Like, they kind of sound like a bunch of criminals discussing how they're going to divide up the loot from their latest heist. And this would be a collection of individuals including Red's Rhetoric, Sly Sparkane, Brainy Beaver, Cheshire Vic, and there was someone else, Kevin Kennedy, and a few others. Anyway, they give out these awards every year. This is the 6th one. And this one is called the 6th Annual DFOTY Awards. So I'm going to play that in just a moment here. Before I do, I want to give people a little bit more time to show up. And let me go ahead and turn D Live on. And look, if you're not on D Live, I recommend that you get there as soon as possible. I'm trying to get to 1,000 subs, and once I do, it will archive videos. It'll be a lot more handy. And besides, YouTube is way too corrupt, and we all know this. I'll be right back. This is Infinite Gang by Neomode.
It's a creeper beat, man. Come on. You know it.
You're playing, man. Infinite things, man. The play society. Infinite plane, infinite plane, infinite plane, infinite plane. Doing my thing, do my thing, do my thing, do my thing. Infinite plane, yeah. I live on the infinite plane. I live on the All the hope, the whole world is a stage. Body double like I'm Saddam Hussein, doing my thing. Don't want the fame, just tryna make change. They took out my page. But an infinite gang, infinite plane, playing no games. Infinite gang, we ain't playing no games. Infinite plane, I'm on an infinite plane. Infinite plane, the world that I live in is strange. Cause I'm on an infinite plane, I'm doing different things. Yeah, I'm on an infinite plane. I'm on an infinite plane, I'm on an infinite plane. Stay with the infinite gang.
All right, thank you. That's a Neo Mode Gucci Flip. You can get his music. You can find the link at infiniteplanesociety.com. Infinite Gang. You can also get it on iTunes. Look up Neo. Okay, so this is the 6th annual DFOTY award. Now, I didn't win. Sadly, I'm kind of disappointed. I was given an honorable mention, and I was describing just what a terrible group of harpies this is here and how hard they are to listen to. But just deal with it for just a moment.
We looked at before going on to the live stream, whatever that man's penis was made.
Yeah, okay, this is total cringe. And
Absolutely contract
God.
heavenly.
And you'll see, as we get through today's live stream, you will see more and more that cringe bait is the new clickbait. Like, it's bad.
That shit went to his ankle.
You actually can't see Red's face because Red's face is so hideous, the human...
Okay, so here we're listening to Red's Rhetoric and Fight the Flat Earth, two people I've actually debated. Now, in this video, and I believe it's at 55 minutes in or 50 minutes in, I got to check the timestamp on it if someone wants to look through it for me. Yeah, here we are, I found it. They mention why we are counted as nominees, among the nominees for this particular award. And the award, which they give out every year, is basically for, well, Dumb F of the Year award. I mean, come on. So what did we do to deserve that? I need to find a better link. That one hasn't fully rendered. If someone else has it, I think I also have it here in my folder of pre-recorded live streams. We went over it this morning. So I'm going to pull that up really quick. Appreciate the donations there in the chat. They still have the Christmas Ninja Guinea with the sled. I was kind of hoping for one. Also on the screen, if you're wondering where any of my links are coming from, it's all from here. It's from, okay, I found it, 18 minutes in. It's all from my Subscribestar account, which you can check out at timosmond.space. You know, just to annoy my trolls and critics and the people I write about, I put my blog behind a paywall. Only 666 readers will have access total. It's $1 to read it. And I did that on purpose. Like I said, I use this as a notepad, and important things that I think are important anyway, worth discussing, go on here. And if you want access to it, you can become a subscriber, but there is a cover charge. And like I said, I did this because giving a cover charge like that really does keep the trolls out. I don't know why. It's like they don't budget that in when they get their contract. Okay, so here we go. Listen to this. 6th Annual DFOTY Award.
Yeah, that's not cool. It's not a big no-no.
I'd like for Mike Kavanagh to dox me, but when they attempted to sue me, they had the wrong fucking address.
Well, I would like to
That's good because I almost doxed you for them. Fuck.
All right, but hang on. As we all know.
Okay, here we go. Here we go. So here is where Red's Rhetoric is going to introduce us. And when they say Infinite Plane Society, they mean all of you too. You know, it's not just me. And so this goes to all of you.
As we all know, Mike Kavanagh is actually on the list, so we'll get to him eventually. But I'm now going to say, fuck any more of this uni shit. Uni, you get an honorable mention. Congratulations, you little shit. And we're going to... There are no winners here. There are no winners here.
That must be some kind of record for someone that was on the panel to...
Okay, so they were just talking about Uni, as in Unirock. I don't know if you know about Unirock. He does YouTube videos and... well, he streams everywhere. He doesn't really do much as far as debating very much, but he has taken an interest in flat earth drama. and so he's very familiar to us. So we're mentioned in good company.
I mean, keep in mind, he was actually backing Katie, and then went off to suck her dick.
Okay, again, we're talking to these are the representatives of the other side. These are the people who call flat earthers terrible people.
That might take a while. You've seen that picture.
Like, honestly, these are the Earth-shaped field assets.
Give an honorable mention too. You got 10 seconds, motherfucker.
I know. I'm like really sorry. I'm kind of cringing already. Like I said, cringe bait. It's really a difficult thing to watch.
Okay, all right. So the next person
Here we go.
that I want to give an honorable mention to, and Fight the Flat Earth is going to know exactly who the fuck this is. Infinite Plane Society.
Oh yeah.
IPS is still around.
IPS is still around, and now he's saying that because some ice debris looks like a mouse, therefore it's a mouse.
Oh yeah, I saw that.
Fuck me.
Isn't he the one who's also?
And this guy has no idea what he's talking about. These people are just so.
Online?
I don't know. He's the guy that pretended to be Mark Sargent at some government meeting or something.
He actually turned up at an official town council meeting to present evidence that there is bubbles in space.
IPS is also.
He didn't. He just talked about it. He never provided any evidence. He was like, "Go look it up. It's on YouTube."
IPS they were like,
"Yeah, cool, man." Temporarily took credit for the scam that Greater Sapien got sucked into about the whole Antarctica trip.
Yeah. Let's not forget that he also totally bit the whole Earth-shaped counterintelligence thing and totally ran with that, thinking it was completely real.
Yeah, of course, because he's a fucking idiot. But anyway, so Infinite Plane Society, or Infinite Planer, as he's known on Twitter, decided to send out a tweet where I was tagged in it. Surprise, surprise. Where it's like, hey, look at this mouse thing. So I literally did 30 seconds on YouTube, and then I found out that there was, yes, it is there. Okay, cool. Other people have found out that, hey, guess what? That mouse melts like regular ice debris would. So not only does this guy believe in space mice, but he also believes in space mice that melt.
No, the mouse was in the thermosphere. It's really hot there.
Oh, of course.
Wait, so according to that logic,
SpaceX engine? Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I got a request.
Hashtag Mousegate.
Can you change your name for a day to Dead Mickey in Space?
Oh, that would be amazing.
Well, here's what he said. He goes, Pope Elon, okay, why is there, misspelled there, a rat on the Merlin 1D engine? That's not the Merlin 1D, that's the Merlin vacuum engine, but whatever. You are about to take a fall along with the entire Tower of Babylon with your satanic space heaven. Earth is flat and infinite until proven otherwise. Happy New Year's, hashtag Year of the Rat.
Oh, wait, until proven otherwise. So what, 2,500 years ago?
Pretty much.
This reminds me, this reminds me of Dr. Evil's headquarters. Like, I think that the Dr. Evil in this situation would be Red's rhetoric. No, I think it would be Fight the Flat Earth. Red's rhetoric would be the cat, the shaved cat in the arms of Fight the Flat Earth. Sly Sparkane, and then the chick would be number 2. Sly would be Fat Bastard. Brainy Beaver, he would be Dr. Evil's son. Anyway, I would not want to be around these people. They're really hard to listen to. They're quite vitriolic. But anyway, they're triggered because we brought Mousegate to their attention. And you heard him read my tweet. Like, I actually want to back that up. I like listening to Red's rhetoric, Mr. Smudge. It's a smudge. I like to listen to him reading my tweet because it's funny.
Why is there, misspelled there, a rat on the Merlin 1D?
In fact, let me back it up a little bit because I got him to say Pope Elon. And, funnily enough, these guys pretend like they're not total fanboys, right? But one of them said eventually he's going to invent robot mice that can fly on the outside of rockets. I mean, they literally think that Elon Musk is some type of a world savior.
There.
Oh, of
But
course.
okay, but here's the tweet.
Wait, so according to
The
that logic,
SpaceX engine? Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, okay,
that-
I got a request. I got a request. for that
Hashtag
candidate here.
Mousegate.
Can you change- can you
Okay, but you got to hear this tweet though.
Oh, that would be amazing.
Well, here's what he said. He goes, Pope Elon, okay, why is there, misspelled there, a rat on the Merlin 1D engine? That's not the Merlin 1D, that's the Merlin vacuum engine, but whatever. You are about to take a fall along with the entire Tower of Babylon with your satanic space heaven. Earth is flat and infinite until proven otherwise. Happy New Year's, hashtag Year of the Rat.
oh wait, until proven otherwise. So what? 2,500 years ago.
And yet, it is indeed Year of the Rat as of February the 5th.
You know that?
I wasn't there to see it, so it didn't happen.
So what I did was somebody by name of Leica decided to send me a video where they actually took that video and sped it up so you could see a time lapse of that piece of ice debris. And yes, it melts. In fact, you can see other pieces of ice debris collect on.
Now, he's talking about Mick West. You see, Mick West is the expert debunker on the internet, as far as I know. Yeah, they all act like that, don't they? I'm serious. It's crazy. I don't know what to call them. I mean, like earlier, I felt like, man, these are the types of people who I imagine if I ever wake up like drugged in a chest somewhere on a boat, you know, and there's a room full of people counting gold and jewelry in the room, like it's them. You know, they sound like a bunch of pirates or something. I don't know. There's just something, I don't know. Like, obviously, they're conspiring if they're working with NASA. And I would say that's true for the Earth-shaped field agents. Red's Rhetoric, obviously. If you didn't know, Red's Rhetoric is totally a NASA show. Completely outed. Let's see what we have here. And everyone, please subscribe if you hadn't yet. If you're on D Live, I have 771. I'd like to get to 1,000 by the end of tonight if we can. It's not that hard if there's 35 domestic terrorists watching right now, and you all get one friend to sign up. NPCs? Yeah, see, NPCs. Now, I don't really believe that anyone out there lacks a soul or volition or sentience, but I do believe that if you just go with the flow, you go with the script, the meta script, and all the Matrix programming, you're a non-playing character on the world stage. You're an extra on the world stage, if that. You're not even paid. So yeah, I see what you mean by NPC. These are the types of people who will stand down if they're not directly targeted. These are the ones who enable evil to win by saying nothing. You know, we experienced this thing when this channel got under attack, starting with the Vegas hoax on October 1st, 2017. I was real-time live criticizing the news coverage of the event. 20 minutes into my live stream, YouTube cuts the feed. And it was like, right after that, the other channels who didn't talk about that hoax just shut their mouths. Oh, we'll just talk about Flat Earth and how rainbows prove the dome. And we'll just recite Bible verses. And they talk about safe things. Like, oh, we'll talk about Mandela effect while you talk about fake school shootings. And we're going to be allowed on YouTube. And it was then that I realized there are people who will compromise on the truth if it directly affects their pocketbook or the size of their community. And I understand the pocketbook argument, you know, compromising, but look, if you're going to compromise with the beast in order to stay and have some traction there, that's fine, but are you just going to ignore the rest of the stuff and fail to comment on it? And that's what's happened. They stopped auto-hoaxing, they just focused on whatever was safe. And so since that time, you know, we've basically experienced a year of being pushed off the web. And now, a year later, now even the people who are just these benign flat tards are being purged. Now people who have nothing to do with this topic are being purged. And it's like, well, look, you guys, you should have stood up for us 2 years ago. Because now look. And I'm not complaining. I mean, the people who saw ahead of the curve already made their moves, as we have. And honestly, we have better quality interactions now than when we were trying to operate with YouTube's system. And one of my long-term stalkers that managed to flag down dozens of channels actually worked for YouTube, and he let it slip once because he was censoring comments, and it would leave a little stamp that said, comment removed by Google moderator. I'm like, well, that's weird. Anyway, we're listening to these nutcases in denial of reality about the mouse in space, and there's more than one mouse. And here they are just giving us the Dumb Fuck of the Year award for 2019.
Top of it. So I'm like, dude, do mice in real life fucking melt?
Hey, I got a question.
Okay, let me answer you, Red's Rhetoric. He says, do mice in reality melt? So what I'm going to ask him is, in reality, does ice form itself into animals and move like that animal for any length of time? No. You can't throw a bunch of snow and have a snowman appear. So what we're supposed to believe is that that's condensate, that's frozen oxygen forming itself into a mouse with a long nose, really cute nose, big ears that actually move appropriately with the head, and that its body oscillates when it moves as a mouse would. We're supposed to believe that not only did this frozen oxygen form itself into the body of a mouse and moved like a mouse, but that it happened at Mach 8 in outer space. Like, I'm sorry, Red's Rhetoric, Mr. Smudge, but again, I don't think you have any, grounds to call me stupid. Like, this is somebody who's just blind faith believing that there's no chance in hell that the video is tampered with. And I'm not trying to say, oh, because there's a mouse in space, Earth is flat. I do think it's conspicuous, though. A mouse in space on the mission that they were sending, quote, Mighty Mouse to space, genetically modified mice, if you believe any of that. But to me, it looks like tampering. In fact, I know someone on the internet, who was sending me emails about this, asking, hey, well, what do you think it is? And because this person said, because they're very familiar with the rocket, they said, well, look, it's a 4-foot diameter engine. If it is a rat, it's huge. And I said, well, it could be a wharf rat. But then again, if it's a wharf rat, it doesn't tie into the whole narrative because it doesn't look anything like the Mighty Mouse that they sent up. And it doesn't even look like a wharf rat. And I've looked at wharf rats, and their ears aren't that large. Not in this way. The mouse that we're talking about, the mouse in question, and have we named him yet? We were going to adopt him. The Infinite Plane Society was going to adopt this guy. We still may. Okay, so this would be the mouse. And this is just one. We have multiple shots of him. See, no mouse in real life has ears like this. This almost looks like Danger Mouse, this old cartoon. Let me take a look at those proportions. And this would be more consistent with Danger Mouse's character, but yeah, look, this is the type of ears that we see on this character, on the rocket. So that can't be a real mouse. I don't even think it can be a wharf rat. Lean Dion says it is Year of the Rat, all part of their Joker script. Well, check this out. It's Year of the Rat where? See, it's Year of the Rat in the Chinese astrology. So, isn't it interesting, because I was just looking at this today, that Elon Musk is out there dancing in China. He's their puppet. He's on their stage dancing around like a goofball. And it's like, wait a minute, what is he doing? It's Year of the Rat. Elon Musk just pretty much jumped the shark with this thing. I think he allowed it to happen, to be honest. I think it's a joke. It's a cartoon, that's my point. It can't be real. It's got to be a cartoon. So my original question then was, well, are we looking at sabotage by maybe a communist plant working for the company? A Chinese communist inserting a digital rat to undermine the company? Or is this some type of elitist inside joke? Mighty Mouse, Mouse in Space, Chinese New Year. Also, yeah, Stuff is Flat says NASA loves Disney. Even their ISS set looks like Mickey. Sure. So, look, for the reality impaired, including Red's Rhetoric, if we go by their assessment and their standards of evidence, and I'm not being facetious here, if we use the standard of evidence that Red's Rhetoric and Fight the Flat Earth and Butt Triggered, what's his name, and all the others, if we use their standards, we would be confused. Okay, so the mouse is fake. Is that cat real? Well, the cat doesn't look any realer than the mouse. I guess the one on the top left that's Looks like he's on Flocka. That guy's definitely fake. The upside down mouse, we could say it's fake. It's also very anatomically correct. I didn't notice that when I made this sticker. Okay, so the cheese, fake. The cat looks realer than the mouse. But you see what I mean? Their entire reality is compromised. Their entire reality is compromised when they have to remain visually illiterate. They have to not process what their eyes are showing them. Like, this has got to be confusing them. Like, seriously. Because you can't make the argument that that mouse looks faker than that cat. And it's not pareidolia, despite what the NASA plants over at Globebusters would have you believe. We're looking at you, Bilu. Yep, Bilu actually said, oh no, that's pareidolia. Well, that doesn't explain the very next one. So, Red's rhetoric has been triggered. They gave us an award for it. I don't know if we want to listen to any more of that. It was getting pretty bad. Let's move on to the next topic. We have other things to talk about. This was just an audio clip. You might find this interesting. This is from Manipulation and Deception in the Digital Age. And this was the social media House hearing. And someone says something. I almost think they were reading one of my books, or they were listening to us up late one night, and this guy's talking about the danger of deep fakes and guardrails.
Being misled online. I share your concerns about deception and manipulation online, including the rise in use of the dark patterns, deep flakes, and other kinds of bad practices that can harm consumers. Can you explain in more detail what sort of regulatory guardrails are necessary?
All right, guardrails, deep flakes, nothing to see there, just thought it was interesting. All right, let me go ahead and move forward a little bit more. A few other things I want to get to, and tonight really, it's really all about cringe, and there's some serious cringe about, I mean, this is unbelievable. I don't know if you guys caught it yet. I've been waiting to play this, the Jimmy Kimmel thing. So Jimmy Kimmel had a plant at the Flat Earth Conference, and I think these are people we've already kind of recognized in other videos. I think these people are all, and I say all, I think these are all plants. Jimmy Kimmel Flat Earth. It just came out last night. They recorded this back in November. The guy's name is Jake Bird. So I want to go over this. So Jake Bird basically dresses up like a yokel, and he goes out onto the conference floor and starts interacting with people, interrupting every single interview he can. Okay, here we go. Then you got Jimmy Curvert, who lies, and he claims that he can see the curvature of the earth from his backyard. He says he can actually stand out on the beach and he can see the curve, that he can see the curve of Hollywood. So I'm like, okay, well, here he is in his Masonic lodge, defending the shape of the world. Really interesting, you know, that he would choose to make this his purpose. His eyes look normal. See, I would say if his right eye was slanted to the right and his left was, you know, dialed to the left a little bit, counterclockwise and clockwise, I could see why he might think the horizon was curved. Like maybe he's got some kind of defect where he sees like a GoPro. But Jimmy Kimmel isn't tall enough to see the curve of the earth. Does he not know this? Like, how can you be this ignorant? Okay, anyway, let's check this out.
State back in 1610, Galileo, you know the guy from...
Okay, let's see. He's reading a script. You know, these script readers, when they age, they become less compelling because you always see them squinting. You're like, man, I could just read it myself. You look like you're straining yourself. Anyway, here they go. They go into making fun of flat earthers. Here's the guy. Now, I like his shirt, Flat Out of Hell. I think he's faking an injury. Not sure why. It's all part of his getup, but this is the character. And that's not his car.
Flat Earth Convention in Dallas, Texas. I got 3 flats on the way here, so that's a sign. Let's go.
Okay, so they're going into the conference. So I'm willing to bet that the guy in this is not the Albuquerque Balloon Fiesta. This is actually a person in yellow. I'm willing to bet that this guy isn't even real. Like, I think that he's a hired actor to make us look bad.
That's the way right there. That's it. Look at us.
I mean, look, this looks like drama students overacting, playing like they're dumb. And you know this guy's engaging in an act. And this guy here on the left, earlier, we saw him in another video, another channel did a, and we'll look at this. In fact, we did a little bit of investigating here. Let me go ahead and pull, there was something else out. It was, I think it was all gas, no brakes. They also went to the Flat Earth Conference. And both of these videos need to be looked at together. So I'm going to bookmark that one, and I'm going to show you how there's some overlapping characters here. And these overlapping characters, as in, oh, you'll see. It's starting to look to me like this entire thing was scripted by Jimmy Kimmel, and they planted people to call Jimmy Kimmel a Jew and then to rip on Jewish people. You'll see.
Oh, not yet. Astronauts, they're actors, of course, and yeah.
Now, this is Flat Earth Man. This is the guy that sings all these songs about the ISS. I've never seen him without his cowboy hat. And so he's just here performing. And this Jake Bird guy, maybe he's just basically mocking him. You know, maybe the injury's real, but for some reason I don't think so.
They all get paid. Look at me, Mom, floating in space. No, you're not. You're lying to the whole human race.
Yeah.
Like, think about the optics of this. Like, he's doing this Forrest Gump routine with the leg brace, clearly to get a rise out of Jimmy Kimmel's audience at the expense of all these individuals here. I mean, like I was talking about this earlier. I mean, it's perfectly fine in this country, I guess, to dress up like a dumb redneck and go act the fool. But you couldn't put on a turban and a bomb vest and go to some Muslim summer camp and ask when you're going to get the M16 practice, when you're going to build bombs, and make a documentary about it and run it on, you know, some TV show at night. No way. Lean Dion says he's actually English, that singer. Post Club Syndicate says that's one of those big hats people. Oh, yes. Yes. I don't know what to make of all these individuals, but this person here, never seen him before, never heard of him. I'm looking to see if there's any kind of identifying markers, like, you know, who he works for, but they give these clueless responses to all these questions, and they get interrupted.
Around and see if NASA's lying to me or not. I think I already know.
They're all lies. We're tired of the scientism lies, okay? The lies that the
We're tired of the scientism lies. I mean, clearly these guys did their homework on the scripting, and you'll see. Even later, they do a really good impersonation of a couple of people you'll recognize.
Earth is round, and my pink eye is contagious, and that, yeah, you can't eat raw chicken and play with coyotes, or if you eat too many eggs, it'll turn you into a Jewish, or that you can drink pee, but you can't drink the pee that comes out from the pee that you drank. But wouldn't that second pee be more sterile than the first pee?
Now, where is he getting this material? What is he talking about? And why is this on Jimmy Kimmel? You know, I really do think they're stealing content or something, because we were making fun of we weren't making fun of, we were analyzing the urine therapy advocates, because like 50% of the flat earth people are, like, at least a lot of the original ones who got behind the conference were all really staunch advocates of urine therapy, including Antonio Superrats, who talked about using it in his hair. Crazy, right? And so I used to say, well, look, if it's that good of a distillation, why wouldn't someone like Dave Murphy, who highly endorses it, sell bottled, distilled water of life, whatever they call it, fountain of youth? And we used to joke about that, and this guy's actually making that same joke. And look, they did their homework. But let's move on. He makes this hand sign, which you will all recognize.
Tired of the lies. Everyone acts like they know everything. We know something, and there's no such thing as knowing. There's no knowing anything. Thank you, ergo, no, it's a flat earth.
And this. So they did their homework. They copied everybody. They knew what to hone in on. I'm calling out some of these individuals as probable actors. Now, here's the next one. I'm 99% sure this guy is an actor. So he comes out in overalls. So I think he got called by his agent and said, hey, we got a gig for you at a Flat Earth conference. Can you put on a straw hat, maybe barefoot, coveralls, and speak in a southern drawl or something? And the guy's like, I'll do my best. I'll do my best. So this actor shows up in his coveralls that he just bought from Target. And here he is being interviewed, talking about how he just woke up.
When I was waking up, and the first guys I found, when I was waking up, and
there's no sense doing anything.
I want to start
with guys I found, when I was waking up.
Okay, let's move on, Pat. Then he gets interrupted. It's a pattern. So this Jake Bird comes along and he interrupts a number of these interviews. So it seems like every time Jimmy Kimmel has an interview going, Jake Bird comes up and interrupts it. And that's pretty much the pattern here. And he says some asinine things. Everyone plays along. Let's move forward. Now, someone called me the day after the conference, and they said they actually watched this character interacting with everyone there, and that it was pretty clear that they were in on it and that this was a skit. And you'll see the skit in a minute. Here he is actually interrupting during the Q&A, and he asks some very strange questions. Now let's take a look at this too.
My name is Mark Sargent, and I'm a proud flat earther. The globe is already dead. They just don't know it yet. Long live flat earth. Thank you.
Okay, here we go. Here's the Q&A. And what I find interesting about this too is how long they let him have the mic. And also, I find this to be kind of ironic. So the guy holding the mic also plays a character in real life called the redneck rocket scientist, where he puts on buck teeth and then he puts on a wig and he acts like a dumb redneck. So you got this guy who's a part-time dumb redneck holding the mic, since he's the MC for the event, holding the mic for a guy who's on the clock playing a redneck. Like, you see what we're looking at here? We're looking at these characters on the world stage. This guy is just not in costume right now. It's very peculiar. And I think that this is all contrived and that they said, okay, let this guy talk. He's going to say some things that are going to be very funny or something.
NASA, which everybody knows actually means not always telling truths. My question for you is, we all know for a fact that the earth is flat, okay? Yeah. But is there a general...
Then he asks a question about how deep the earth is. Then here's the next part. This is the part where my contention is that this is staged right here. So Mark is being interviewed, and he gives this statement here that I find to be interesting. He says, well, you can listen for yourself. I'll play about 30 seconds. It's typical, though. It's a Markism. Nothing wrong with that if you're into that model.
This is easier to understand than this. And you say, well, that doesn't mean it's right. It's like, isn't it? Why not?
This is easier to understand than this. That doesn't mean it's right, isn't it? So his argument is it's easier to understand this than that. When no, it's actually not. If you go by the scientific method and what we all recognize as standards of evidence and what theories actually mean, a theory doesn't mean our best guess. It doesn't simply mean that. It also means the best possible explanation that we have at this time. So if you want to go off of explanations for everything, the globe actually is right now the dominant explanation because no one's been to the edge. No one has actually seen the dome. So it might be simplistic to say, no, everything's just an illusion. Or, well, the world's obviously on the back of a turtle. Like, those are answers that don't mean anything. It's meaningless. And so I just find it strange that passes as some kind of answer for him. And I'm wondering, did they script it to sound like this?
We believe all sorts of things, but the public tends to lean towards the easiest explanation. It's why we text instead of no.
Gross.
Okay, so this is the part here in question. Someone called me up and they said, hey, when Mark is interrupted, he acts like it wasn't expected, but it was coordinated. This guy watched it from the sidelines. So here you have this person who's playing the role of a buffoon, Jake Bird, interrupting this interview.
Public tends to lean towards the easiest explanation. It's why we text instead of no.
Gross,
no.
gross,
get up,
gross
get
flat
up,
earth,
get up.
gross flat earth. Pretty flat earth.
I know. Go.
Quick question.
No,
How
no.
can I talk to my kids about the earth being flat when I can't legally talk to my kids?
Doing an interview.
Oh my God.
Okay, so that's scripted. Post Globe Syndicate says, as an Appalachian American, I am highly offended. All right, let's continue. So this guy's just playing a bozo. Then he gets kicked out. Is Mark on adrenochrome? He's doing the Donald Trump tongue thing here. Anyway, is there anything else in this clip? Okay, yeah, there is something else in this. So let's move on. This is where the script continues. So before we watch this, I want to take you to something else. This is going to show you how staged it all is. This is what we figured out this morning. Okay, so this one here, starting at the same exact car, this is all gas, no brakes. A great channel. They do some great work. And they were just hanging out with flat earthers or whatever. But here's where it gets kind of strange. So they start off talking with first the rotund guy in the yellow shirt who just makes these grunting noises. Again, this is cringy, so brace yourself.
Flat, gotta keep it flat.
What's on? Flat gang.
Flat, all the way.
It's flat gang, baby.
Flat gang? Yeah, flat gang, all the way.
Yeah, so that's him. Someone said that was Alex Jones in a fat suit. And I'm like, maybe. A little too tall, though. A little too tall. I don't know, though. I can't rule it out. We'll have to do a side-by-side. Now, this guy comes on next, and his name is Lance by his name tag. And I'm like 100% certain that this is the guy that was in Sync, right? But anyway, he comes out and he starts talking about Hitler and stuff. Here we go.
There's cures for cancer. There's a cure for AIDS. I just became vegan this last year, bro. I'm like, Pepsi had...
Okay, so he's a vegan, right? So this guy's vegan Nazi. And now he's going to talk about how Pepsi has aborted baby fetuses as part of their flavoring. I think this guy is an imitation of Eric Dubé. And they have another guy that I'm pretty sure was an imitation of Powerland. You'll see, they're doing imitations all around. I think the guy with the... this guy here with the top hat, obviously he's copying, I would guess, I don't know, Bob Nodal? I don't know. What do you guys think? But anyway, clearly they're copying a lot of people here. And so this guy here is, to me, he's going to be playing the role of like an Eric Dubé. Somebody says it looks like Jimmy Kimmel's mic set. It kind of does, doesn't it? Okay, let's listen to this clown.
last year, bro. I'm like, Pepsi had aborted babies, like the little fecal cells inside of their flavoring.
Is there anything that you
He said fecal cells in the flavoring.
don't think was an inside job?
That's a tough one. You know, the Jews are in fucking. Yeah, they freaking control all of everything. I mean, if you 9/11, back to that. The Jews are.
And then inside you had, of course, Owen Benjamin, who in his comedy routine said, every time you watch a movie, a Jew takes a dump on your soul. Quote Owen Benjamin. Comedy, so it's not hate speech, right? I mean, anyway, so this clown makes a lot of comments about getting rid of the Jews, and then it goes over to Nathan Thompson, the guy who, in the last video I saw, broke into his girlfriend's house and terrified her and her 2-year-old because he was so drunk and he was kicking the door so hard. That's this guy. A total psychopath, if you ask me. A Call Day 2323 says that just got the Bears wet. Oh, the Jews guy? Yeah, probably. Okay, so let's see what we got here. Okay, so this is if you're a bear, you're gonna love this. This is Nathan Thompson talking about the Grabblers.
There's some Freemasonry involved, some Jesuits involved, and some gravelers involved, and some gravelers. Jewish people are just mom and pops, deli owners. What I know, most Jewish people are just mom and pop.
Yeah, most Jewish people just own delis, right? Because there's delis everywhere. Like every street corner, I see a deli, and it's just Jewish people. Come on, that's just a stereotype. Like the closest thing we have to a deli here is Subway, and it's pretty multiculti, like multiracial. Like no, what world is he in? And I can tell you, he still believes in the protocols of the learned elders of Zion, or he's being paid to present it as though he believes it to be true. Okay, so let's move past this psychopath, and I feel comfortable calling him a psychopath because in that video, he didn't care that there was a little kid there. And the way he was attacking that single mother, kicking her door, drunk, I don't know. One of his, and I hate to be well, all I'm doing is I'm reporting on the flat earth topic, and since he does have the biggest flat earth Facebook group, it's worth pointing out that, well, maybe it is of interest that we do talk about this. We're not going to talk about the speculation about the blood drinking. And you can look that up if you feel like it. Okay, so this is the guy I wanted to bring up. So this guy here says that if we want to solve all the world's problems, we got to get rid of the Jews. So check this out and pay attention to this guy. And notice right now he's wearing an orange sweater.
And you've got a Fallon, and I think both of those are Jewish back names.
Okay, so he starts off talking about how Jimmy Kimmel and Jimmy Fallon are Jews.
Jesus. It's all mind control. You got a Kimmel and you got a Fallon, and I think both of those are Jewish back names. What we're standing on here.
You got a Kimmel, you got a Fallon, those are Jew names.
Is not what they told us it is. The whole thing can be solved very easily. How do you stand on Hitler?
The whole thing can be solved easily. How do you stand on Hitler, dude? Okay, so you all recognize this guy. Now let's go back over here. So Mark is being hassled by Jake Bird, and look who saves Mark.
The face of the earth exists if the earth wasn't flat.
Interviews. I've got a press conference after this.
You nailing this, man.
Wait, I think we just had a Bigfoot sighting. Yep. Yep, and it's scratching its posterior. Is that a normal posture for the Bigfoot? To be scratching its ass on Jimmy Kimmel? Not a good look. But the last time I watched one of her videos, she was at a mall picking her nose while being lectured by some father about why she shouldn't videotape his daughter. Okay, so let's move on. Now, here is Mark being rescued from Jake Bird by the guy with the final solution.
Saying the earth is flat, it's about being open-minded.
Did you think this guy was a controlled opposition when he came up there and had a really stupid question about burying dogs?
I don't even know what controlled opposition means, but okay.
You're trying to make the movement seem stupid?
Oh.
You're just trying to make the movement seem stupid. And so this is that guy.
Okay.
Same guy. And here's your hillbilly guy. But anyway, he's not in the orange sweater. So over here he's in an orange sweater talking about we can solve everything. What do you think about Hitler?
Told us it is. The whole thing can be solved very easily. How do you stand on Hitler?
How do you stand on Hitler? And now here he is taking part in this Jimmy Kimmel skit.
Really? Oh, you've never buried a dog, Scott. So what is the problem?
What do you think? Anyone? What is with it? This guy who's part of a skit, and this is a skit. That's the thing. This is a skit. They're all aware that they're being filmed. Even Bigfoot with her little cameo. She knew that's Jimmy Kimmel, and she knew this is her moment. And then, of course, this guy here with your thing about the Jews or whatever. Okay, so let's move forward a little bit on this one. This guy's pretty cringy. He's always talking about toilet water in Australia as somehow proving that the earth is flat.
Gyrating. The earth doesn't move. We don't have toilet water flying out on people in Australia. It's because
we don't have toilet water flying out in Australia. He's been using that same exact line for how long? And who does his brows? It's got to be the same guy that does Jaren's brows because they almost go over his eye sockets. Does anybody see that? Okay, now I want to show you the next bit here. I swear the Lance guy who talked about the aborted fecal cells in Pepsi, the vegan guy, he was obviously based on Eric Dubay. Now, this guy, I think, is based on Powerland. And this is totally, they're just taking the piss out of everybody.
Is this a photo or a painting?
What's the answer, man?
Well, I'm asking you. Get you thinking, right? So, like, what are you really seeing? Is it an image? Because images can be Photoshop, right? That's what really gets you going, and then you kind of go from there, man.
And the shades. I mean, look, he's wearing the shades. This is so obviously a rip on Powerland. I mean, and this is all gas, no brakes. And this is the other one. Jimmy Kimmel, same basic gig, some of the same overlapping actors, though. And like I said, that thing was scripted. Let's see if there's anything else on here. Okay, don't want to give Jimmy Kimmel too much time. He does look very masky, though. Like, it looks like it's actually slipping off his face right here. All right. I'm going to open up phones in just a moment. I want to go over a few other things that we... Okay, empty half the planet. It's the only way to save it. Kim Stanley Robinson. We have an article in The Guardian that's advocating for extermination of half the human race. We may talk about that. You notice we didn't really panic over the war and the draft and everything else. Like, there were pictures that were being circulated about missile attacks that were from 2 years ago. I mean, this has been happening quite a lot, where you have a drone shot down, it's going to start World War III, then you find out, well, no, that photo's from Yemen 20 years ago or whatever. Neutral username says, if it's on TV, it's a psyop. Yeah, that's a good rule. All the TV does is it televises the world stage. It is the church of the one world order. All of it. Lean Dion says, the timing of the Kimmel troll. Maybe they released it to go against Mousegate. Defeat Jihadi says, are you part of the DLive partnerships yet? No, I have to have 1,000 subs. They raised the bar. I was just about there, and then they raised it. So I need a couple hundred more subs. If you're not subscribed on DLive, I'm on Infinite Plane Radio. We have 773. Just need a couple hundred more. I considered shutting off YouTube like halfway through the stream just to get them to jump ship, and I may start doing that very soon. Also, okay, look, there's not going to be a draft. So all those who are worried about having to cut off their man buns, you can keep your man bun. You're not going to war. But you're probably going to go to the voting booth so you can vote for the people who will go to war so you don't have to. I mean, this is all designed to get you to vote. It's all there to agitate. The left wing has their fake school shootings and their climate hysterias. And look what you have. I mean, even Australia, like, they're treating this just like they treated the fires in California, where they're using this as an opportunity to advance the global warming agenda. Oh, this is being caused by climate change. And then they're also saying that ISIS is setting fires. And like, well, how convenient that ISIS is setting fires, that the liberals who side with ISIS in all the important ways that matter are actually being able to use that to say, no, it wasn't the terrorists doing it, it was you guys with your SUVs. So who's burning everything down? The consumers of dinosaur juice, gasoline, internal combustion engines, are we the ones causing the fires in Australia? Or is it ISIS? So it's kind of convenient that if you're on the left, you can blame the right. And if you're on the right, you can blame the left, who do see a friend in a common enemy, being the American right. All right, so let's see. Let's continue. I was going through my Minds.com account. This morning we spent a lot of time on Bill Nye the Science Guy, who's made these arguments that you suffer from cognitive dissonance and you're delusional if you don't believe in climate change. And he's even suggested, hypothetically, in a way, that maybe it's time to lock up people who don't believe in climate change. A lot of these conversations we had this morning were on a Zoom conference. So look, if you're missing out on the Zoom conferences, and we do record those, I'm going to be broadcasting them probably once or twice a week. I just got to stitch them together. They're like 30 or 40-minute meetings. We go over various topics. But I'm going to put it together and release it. But if you want to catch those live, you do have to join us at Patreon. And yeah, I use Minds.com for all my links. So if there's anything here that we discuss, you can find it. Minds.com, Infinite Plane Society. Speak Penguin or Die. A number of people keep saying we shouldn't be using that kind of rhetoric. And we're not threatening to kill any of you. Basically, we're saying that the Flat Earth movement is going to crawl into a corner and die. That it's going to die in conference rooms, stale conference rooms with hotel swimming pool water on its breath. Like, it's a pathetic death for a movement because it's being missteered into basically a community that puts its own existence over objective truth. And then, of course, they mix that with religion. So what I've been saying here for about a month now is that the people who think the earth is flat had better learn how to speak Penguin, or their movement's going to die. If they don't go deep, deep, deep south, Antarctica deep, and further, what's the point? What is the point? And I'm just mentioning this because, as you can see, this whole concept has been deliberately misrepresented to the masses for a reason. You know, why do you think they're targeting it? You notice they had to manufacture the idiots to put on TV. Why? Because maybe it's not really full of idiots. Maybe the people who talk about these things aren't all completely out of touch with reality, foolish people who are just, suffering from too much misinformation. There are some thoughtful people who have valid reasons for coming up with alternative explanations for what they see. So what's the need to discredit them with a bunch of actors? Like, why do you think they have to manufacture school shootings? Because they're not organic. And if they're manufacturing it, if it's scripted, it's because obviously they're trying to bury something. Someone asks when I'm going south. When am I personally going south? We're waiting until Mike hits the dome, basically. Is everybody here familiar with Real Rocket Man? I was on FERradio.live earlier. I called in. Mad Mike does a live stream on Wednesday nights. And he's going to be doing this all year leading up to his jump to space. But that's the first step. So this is Rocket Man, the documentary, Mad Mike's mission to prove the flat earth. If you haven't seen it, you should see it. It's probably the best documentary you'll ever see. It's pretty much the story of how this guy built a rocket in his garage on a limo driver's salary of $15 an hour, and shot himself into space, into 2,000 feet up. He broke some world records. It wasn't the first time he's done it, but this documentary actually is kind of an inside look as he actually builds the thing. I'll be right back. It's just 1 minute and 45 seconds.
These things are not easy to do.
A California man is getting ready to launch himself into the air in a homemade rocket to prove that the Earth is flat.
My favorite, barbecued moron.
A lot of people got the idea that he's just some kind of a nut. He might just be crazy.
I believe in the geocentric flat Earth model.
This is America. We can believe whatever we want.
People have lost faith in experts.
Scientific facts are completely debatable.
The Earth isn't flat.
I'm not going to take anyone else's word for it. I'm going to build my own rocket right here, and I'm going to see with my own eyes what shape this world we live on.
Look, any idiot can sit in their bedroom uploading conspiracy theories to YouTube, but it takes a special idiot to launch himself into space for the cause.
What do I do if shit goes south? Did you leave a letter or something? What do you want me to do?
Okay, so I'll leave you a link to the trailer. This is it's on Amazon. Let me see where else you can get it. You can get it on DVD, Amazon, and let's take a look. Nowhere else yet. I want to see what kind of reviews it's getting. Still mostly 5-star ratings. 193 reviews. It's been viewed quite a lot, and this is an independent film. It's almost all 5 stars. Mostly the 1 stars are just globe cucks who are mad about it. They're just like, the Earth isn't flat. 1 star. It's like, that's not really the point of the film. Like, let's see you build anything in your garage and break any kind of record with a shoestring budget, and make a decent documentary about it. And if you notice, it's listed as a comedy because it's actually pretty funny. Like, you wouldn't think, but yeah, it's actually a really funny documentary. Okay, NASA faking space, and it's funny, haha funny, not funny, cringe funny, like Behind the Curve. NASA faking space proves flat Earth? Question mark. Now, in a way, you could say it does, or at least raises that question, but logically, it doesn't follow. So let's say tomorrow we find out, or the public finds out, that they're faking the space station. It doesn't necessarily mean the Earth is flat. It could just mean that maybe the Earth isn't a big ball of water. Maybe there's more land. Maybe Antarctica is really nice. Maybe it's the best part of this place. Same with the North Pole. Maybe they're hiding the North and the South Pole, and you can't go there unless you're billionaire plus. I mean, we don't know. But that could be an explanation. There's no reason to leap to, oh, therefore, the Earth is flat, we're under a dome, and the flat Earth dome is on top of a footstool that God made. Or turtles, or whatever else. Okay, so this guy was visiting NASA in Houston, and he was talking to NASA employees about the moon landing and everything. And I don't talk about the moon landing a lot, except to say this. It's a limited hangout that they've been controlling since the 60s. I mean, since they did the moon landing, they already had a contingency plan in place, and that would be calling it a hoax. And the reason they would call it a hoax is, as long as you think the moon landing is a hoax or maybe not a hoax, then it becomes a question of, well, if they hoaxed it, why? And that's where the people pretty much stop. Well, they obviously hoaxed it to trick the Russians. But that doesn't go far enough. So whenever I discuss it, it's in the context of, well, they faked it because the whole space program has been fake on all sides. The space race doesn't exist. They're not actually racing or competing. I mean, it gets even weirder if you want to go there. Just how theatrical this thing is. Beyond the Challenger employees, the Challenger astronauts, the 7 who supposedly blew up 33 years ago, it was January 86 when these guys blow up, and then later they all turn up still alive. And that explosion was on the 19th anniversary of the 3 guys burning on the launch pad. And of course, Neil Armstrong may himself be another one of these actors on the world stage, and there is something to suggest that he may have played a role previous to Neil Armstrong. I kind of want to get into it. But I want to see what this guy had to say about this thing, because, yeah, again, it's not about the moon landing being faked. And I think you can prove it being fake just by looking at the photos and asking, where the hell is the moon? Like where is it? Let me just show you what I'm talking about. Like, you see it before they land, but when they're actually on the moon, walking around, there's pretty much a horizon line that ends a couple hundred yards away at best. So we'll take this one for example. How many miles away is that horizon? You know, how far off is that? Because I don't see anything beyond it. And judging by the light source, we should see miles and miles of moon. Because from the perspective of a human, and as small as a person is relative to an object the size the moon is purported to be, it would be experienced as flat, just like you experience the Earth as flat. You've never seen the curve, and if you say that you have, you're a pervert like Jimmy Kimmel. Like, you're pretty much lying, because you haven't seen it directly. You wouldn't see it directly on the surface of the moon. You wouldn't see curve. And so you're supposed to believe here that the rest of the moon is over the hump right there. And I'm like, nah, there should be miles of moonscape, miles of craters, and there isn't any. So that's my main critique of the moon landing. There's no moon there. And if you get into looking at the mountains and the hills, you'll find a complete lack of parallax as far as with the mountains in the background and the foreground. It's more consistent, I should say, with parallax in a building 500 feet across. Like you're not looking 20 miles away. Okay, here's Neil Armstrong. You know, maybe we should talk about this really quick because I want to show you just at the root of this thing. So you all know the first man who walked on the moon, Neil Armstrong, but the first man to go to space was Yuri Gagarin, the cosmonaut, who died in a mysterious fiery crash right before the emergence of Neil Armstrong. So which is which? So the one on the left is Neil, the one on the right is Yuri. And this is by Super Recognizer. Great channel. In fact, he put the symbol of the 33rd degree Masons as his avatar, which I think is interesting because I suggested this before. We were talking about deep fakers, and I was noticing, is there a correlation between this Masonic symbolism with these two-headed birds at the highest rank and all these high-ranking Masons who seem to be playing dual roles? Again, on the right is the Russian Yuri Gagarin, on the left is the American Neil Armstrong. So this is very consistent with the idea of the dying and resurrecting Masonic Hiram Abiff, this phoenix concept, the fiery death, the rebirth, the death faking, the death resurrection, all very consistent. Again, this is Super Recognizer's channel. Not a whole lot of effort went into obscuring this at all, if you ask me. And it goes deeper than just the pictures. There's narrative structures that support this. So again, I'm just saying, from the beginning, there was never a space race. It's been a movie the whole damn time. Restreambot says Elvis's birthday is today, 85. I thought Elvis was born in, what, 1925? Now, today's Elvis's birthday. I think it might also be David Bowie's death day, which ties into a few things. No, he died January 10th. He was born January 8th. So he was born on January 8th, which is Elvis's birthday. There are some connections here that kind of make me think that Bowie death faker, Elvis death faker, these things do have some interesting correlations. So, for example, Elvis kind of presaged his death with some song called Black Star. You know, he dies, David Bowie dies after his album Black Star comes out. The January 8th thing might tie into it, the dates. I think that makes him he died January 10th. He was 69 years old. Now, there was something about it. Oh, yes. So, David Bowie did have this kind of persona that he played. And his persona is the man who fell to earth. And then when he died, he released a music video called Lazarus, where he basically rises up. And, you know, Lazarus is another Osiris-like figure, one who rises from the dead. And so Lazarus shows up after his death, a few days afterward. But I thought the whole thing was scripted. You know, from the man who fell to earth to Lazarus, it's kind of just this character getting on the stage and exiting, but the actor doesn't actually die. So a couple of days after David Bowie's death, this guy, Jack Stevens, shows up on Sky News, and he looks just like David Bowie, maybe with a little bit of a mouthpiece, and a bad wig, and a sweater to add some bulk. And there's even a bit of Duper's Delight. So the guy on the right shows up 2 days after Bowie dies. And he's like, yep, this is Jack Steven. Many of the things that are idiosyncratic to David Bowie do match up with this guy, including the wonky eye. Definitely the mannerisms. And when he says something about when Bowie died, a part of me died, which he says during the interview, he kind of winks at it's Duper's delight, like 100%. Something else to consider is Bowie disappeared from the world stage for months, claimed he was suffering from cancer, so he was out of sight, out of mind, plenty of time, to rehearse this. But basically, I mean, I think it's just a wig. And he often admitted to, and he described how he would go to America and he would walk around in disguises. And so I looked into this quite a lot, and many of you listening to this channel, you followed along with Jonah Mendez, the CIA's master of disguise, talking about how they could get these spies into other countries in and out safely, and their lives depended on them not being detected. And one of their most effective things, next to the prosthetic nose, was the plumper, just something they put in the mouth. Somebody says, what about twinning? I say no. The idea of clones, MK Ultra, and reptilians are all misinformation guardrails put there to hide disguise. And this is an important point. Nobody's doing any clones. Nobody's really dying. People die, but I'm saying in these cases, these big fabricated events, there's no MK Ultra mind control. What we're looking at here is just basic disguise. And the reason why you've been given all these other explanations is because they don't want you to know about this. So this is CIA's ex-chief of disguise talking about how they would hide these spies. And she talks about these hyper-realistic masks, these hyper-realistic silicone masks that are so realistic that they're foolproof. Like that's just the way they are, foolproof. Like you wouldn't know the difference. You could have 6, as she described it in one instance, you could be in a room full of people and you wouldn't know which one was the original and which one was copying.
Walk in, you say, I need a disguise. First thing I do is challenge you. Why? Where are you going? Why do you need a disguise? So then we talk about what you're going to be doing, who you're working with, who you need to fool, and for how long, how realistic. We may end up dyeing your hair. I mean, if you need to wear this 24 hours a day, we go off in another tangent. But I would always start with the idea of whoever you're meeting with, they're going to go write a memo and hand it to their boss. I met with this American.
Okay, so she explains the methodology for how they come up with a design, a concept. But one of the main points to take out of this is she walked into the Oval Office and fooled George W.H. Bush, or H.W. Bush, who thought she was one of his assistants. Not, and it wasn't like recently. We're talking like 30 years ago. And so here she gives a TED Talk. Deception, illusion, and espionage. My point is, what we're seeing with David Bowie transitioning into Jack Steven is very consistent with what she described. And they have all the reason in the world to distract you from it. Now, this is something I noticed as well. Whenever the camera focused on him at an angle that would probably give it away, they threw this pixelation over his face. So several times during this conversation on Sky News, Jack Stevens, who I contend is David Bowie, 3 days after David Bowie died, like Lazarus coming back from the dead, whenever he gets too David Bowie-ish, he seems to pixelate.
Of course, most people will be mystified to discover that David Bowie did not die, but has simply changed appearance again.
I wanted to use rock and roll in some way or other, and I got tired of the sort of the lie of the rock performer is exactly the same on stage as he is off stage, which in most cases isn't true at all. But so
I mean, that even sounds like Bowie, but he's saying, he's talking about the meaning of a rock star on a stage and how different the person is from who he is off the stage. Like I said, they definitely tried to obscure it. They definitely, and I didn't know what it was. I was like, they did something to his jawline. And what she describes, what Jonah Mendez describes, is that by using a plumper on the guns or changing the teeth on the top and bottom, you can change the profile of someone's face very well. Defeat Jahudi says, are DUMBs fake? Oh, I don't know. You mean deep underground military bases? I'm actually of the opinion that deep underground military bases are probably where a lot of the NASA budget's actually going. Same with SpaceX. I do think that's what they're actually doing. And if there's any truth to the idea that we all exist on top of a previously buried civilization, then it might be likely that there might be some, I don't know, ancient infrastructure, perhaps maybe even a continuity. I'm not really quite sure. I've been looking a lot into that idea of this mud flood theory. If you haven't checked it out yet, and I haven't put a lot of time into it yet, but I'm going to. I'm administrating the site right now. Just set it up. We just launched it a few days ago, and we're going to start doing some live streams on this topic. There's about 25 members right now, but if you want to join it, there's a link. Yeah, the Boring Company. Exactly. All right, so let us continue here. We were talking about deep fakes, death fakers. Somehow we got into David Bowie. Oh, because someone mentioned it was Elvis's birthday. So this guy's making this argument, and again, this was from this article. This guy is saying that it doesn't necessarily prove it's flat just because NASA's faking stuff. Here we go. Conclusion. The fact that NASA faked the Apollo manned moon missions in the 60s doesn't prove the Earth is flat, but it does indicate the possibility that we have not been far enough away to have seen the photo of the globe. Now the problem with this too is if you limit yourself to calling out the moon landing as fake, like, okay, that was fake to fool the Russians, you're still allowed to say the space station's real. You know, like I got a book here, and I suppose we didn't go to the moon either. It's a Jim Fetzer book. And I interviewed him once. We talked about this, and I said, well, what do you think about the space station? You know, my thinking on it was that if you're going to be debunking the moon landing, then you would have to question everything, the science that got us to the moon. And so every subsequent mission is therefore, I think, kind of built on a foundation of lies. So I do actually have a clip from it. I don't remember specifically what he said, but I'm going to play from Jim Fetzer, and this is about 1.5 years ago. Well, 3, 2, 1, and we are live. So I'm going to skip over to the end where we get into a conversation about the
confiscate weapons.
Okay, let me turn the volume down.
Been around as long as Earth.
We are talking about Jim Fetzer here. Okay, so I asked him about the space station because he's debunked the moon landing like professionally. So let me go ahead and turn the volume much lower. And let's take a listen.
About 4.5 billion years. So if it's a problem now going to Mars, obviously there's a problem getting to the moon. We could not have done it. Number two, they discovered a treasure trove of moon footage. That would have been, if it were real, the most priceless footage ever taken by the hand of man, which NASA destroyed. And the reason they destroyed it, of course, is because modern techniques of analysis would have revealed that, in fact, the whole thing was fabricated or fake. I got into...
See, as you can see so far, he has a lot of reasons, to think this moon landing thing was faked. He's done some of the best work debunking it. Okay, so let's continue.
This when I was in London with my wife on my second visit to a city that I adore, and we turned on the BBC, and there was this fascinating program giving one scientific proof after another we hadn't gone to the moon, how it had been faked, how they had just taken regular moon buggy and walking and so forth and put it into slow motion, that they weren't leaping high enough to be authentic in a gravitational field only 1/6 as strong as Earth, and that You had moon buggy tracks with no tracks, moon buggies with no tracks in front, behind, or in the middle. Although you
Man, he's really got it down. It's encyclopedic to listen to him rattle off.
can't, and we have it either way, because if it can't, then you got the boot print, which has to be fake. If it can, you got the moon buggy there with no tracks, which means it had to be set down by a crane. You've actually got some footage where you can see wires attached to the astronauts and so forth. That's entitled Conspiracy Theory, Did Man Land on the Moon? It's still available. Check it out because it still remains vital.
Now, we're listening to Jim Fetzer, who, if you didn't know, he's being sued by the Sandy Hookers, and he got hit with a $400,000 suit for slander or libel, defamation, among other things.
Pile of space poop.
Brilliant. Brilliant. And yeah, they do have an obsession with that. I actually heard that on the ISS. They're testing out a way to recycle it and put it into a 3D printer to make various tools and I guess utensils they might need. Now, so if you do look into the space station as being a possible ground-based movie production, I would look for three things: augmented virtual reality, harnesses, and green screens. And then on the spacewalks, and this is not just for this is for like the Chinese, the Japanese, all the different space agencies. Their spacewalks look pretty much the same, but what we're often finding are bubbles. So it looks like the same pools where they train for the spacewalks might be where they're actually filming it to do it as simulation. And so then what I'm thinking is they could easily be faking the space station itself with a combination of pre-filmed spacewalks, maybe some parabolic flights, and a lot of green screen and a lot of harness. And so I'm thinking this is the new moon landing in terms of where the researcher is going, because I think the moon itself, the Apollo landing, has been debunked. But now I think the space station is something that serious minds ought to take a look into, because a lot of money's going into it, and I'm really starting to question if it's even up there.
Yeah, I think he raised a perfectly legitimate issue. You cannot take for granted the authenticity, the accuracy, or the truth of any report on a politically significant issue coming from the mainstream media. And I look forward to future investigations about the space station. I think it's a worthy project, and I appreciate your emphasis upon it here today.
Okay, so like I said, I just wanted to bring it up to him. I thought, well, if anybody needs to hear about the space station and whether or not it's real, well, this is someone. Fetzer, professional moon landing debunker. And this is something that I often say, that the moon landing itself is a limited hangout if it doesn't include everything, because the International Space Station implicates everybody. That's why it's critical. It's not, oh, the sneaky Americans tricked the Russians. No, this shows you how the thing actually works. Defeat Jehudi says, Jaron did a video with the telescope watching the ISS. If you actually look at what you saw, that's not what you saw. 1 second. Infinite Plane Radio.
Hey, what's up there, Infinite? This is Ezra out of North Carolina. And I just wanted to say I was listening to you a moment ago, and I'm glad that you mentioned that church that had a shooting, because even I felt as though it looked kind of funny. You know what I mean?
Which church shooting? Are you talking about the one in Charleston or the one that just happened?
Oh, no.
Oh, the recent one.
I'm talking about the one that just happened. But I have a buddy who's from Charleston, South Carolina, and we went out there, and he was pointing at me all the things that were inconsistent. And he kept saying, since when does a church remodel outside and repaint and, do everything with their parking space days after a shooting? But anyway, back to the more recent shooting in this church. Look, again, me and my friend, we're from close to Charleston, South Carolina, and we know how some churches are, and we know that some of our friends who are Caucasians, yes, they do have guns. That part isn't what's weird to me. What's weird is how everyone started shooting at this man, and that one lady got up and got all hysterical, ran in the back, and then ran back to her family 2 rows or maybe 3 rows ahead. you know, the coordination of it all, it just looks like a lot of bad acting. You know what I mean? It doesn't look like real people in hysteria. It looks like improv and horrible improv.
Oh yeah, it looked like a drill. And check this out. So this was at the place. It was called Church of Christ. So here are some interesting coincidences. So right before this event, they had this gun law change that said you could open carry in church. Like this just happened. So the two. Now this happened in Tarrant County. Well, the guy.
Lord.
So the guy in Christchurch who shot up the mosque, his name was Brenton Tarrant. So I'm like, okay, wait, that's a weird coincidence. Brenton Tarrant, Tarrant County.
Tarantino? Wait, what?
Yeah, I always thought, yeah, I consider that too. I mean, look, these characters are 100% scripted and written for the world stage, and they drop a lot of really strange little hints there. But I'm like, well, what are the odds that you have a place? And there's more coincidences here involving these two, including the names, the name of the city, and I'm like, okay, too many coincidences. The other guy shot up a mosque. This guy shoots up a church, and it's live streamed, and now live streaming becomes the issue. Same story.
Now, whether or not these events actually happen, because I have to be sure what I say to your listeners, whether or not someone actually lost their life in that church, we all know that these politicians are not going to let a good crisis go to waste. Whether this was real or not, this is the perfect time for someone to chime in with their gun law or their anti-gun.
Check this out.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so when the shooting happened at the disco in Orlando, right afterwards, Donald Trump came out and he said, a good guy with a gun would stop a bad guy with a gun. And so that became a mantra. Good guy with a gun will stop a bad guy with a gun. So what happened here? Trump came out and he said, a good guy with a gun stopped a bad guy with a gun. So to me, this was theater just like Sandy Hook, and this was also done in white settlement. So I think this was designed to make white Christian Republicans feel good for their pro-gun arguments.
And to justify their exactly their gun argument. You hit the nail right on the head.
And let me answer a question here in the chat. We have a guy who says, is your point of view based off one camera or many? Yeah, let me go and answer you on that one. So with Brenton Tarrant on the left in New Zealand, everybody bases their opinion off the one shooting video that got banned. Nobody talks about the second video, and I guarantee the commenter has not seen the second video. The second video shows people getting off the ground. They have a guy with a Windex bottle with fake blood in it. I mean, what else do people need to understand that we're looking at drills?
They probably haven't seen these drills in other occurrences like the Boston bombing or, other events like this. They haven't seen these actors putting on makeup or getting into character, getting in the scene. And I think once they see that, then they'll be able to identify these crisis actors and actresses. It's just a little bit more easy.
Well, really quick, I want to address this commenter. He says, we seem like armchair quarterbacks, and I want to explain why he's wrong. Okay, now listen to this. So, listen, the people who treat everything on the news as facts, as reported, they're the armchair quarterbacks. They're the ones who are taking everything secondhand and just agreeing with it. We're the ones who are actually challenging it. So, no, we're actually analyzing the media. So, no, we're engaged in the media. We're not the armchair quarterbacks here. It's you guys. You auto-believers are, not us.
Well, then let me also add this before I go. The lack of evidence is not evidence. Excuse me, let me start over. The absence of evidence is not the evidence of absence, but it makes a very good argument for foul play. And that's all I got to say about that, especially when it comes to footage. A lack of footage definitely means foul play when it comes to gun laws and, any type of talking points that you might see on CNN or Fox News. Hey, Infinite, man, I'm going to keep on listening to you, man. It was a joy talking with you again.
Yeah, hey, thanks for calling. I appreciate it. Have a great night.
Do the same.
All right, phones are open, 505-510-4226. Arwin66 says, all you're doing is denying what the media says. Well, all you're doing is then what? Automatically believing it, right? And by your logic, we could also say, well, all you're doing is you're denying what Greta says. Or you're denying what Al Gore says. You're denying what CNN says. You're denying what the imam or the cleric says or the priest says. You see what you're doing here is you're asserting that we are in the wrong for pushing the burden of proof. So if you don't understand that the burden of proof isn't yours, then you're always going to be mandoozled by the media. And that's your choice. Some people choose to be mandoozled for life by the media, by their churches, by whatever institution washes their brains. So you want to...
GMC, like a pro. Ring in the new year.
But what you can't do is you can't make the argument that we're somehow like morally defective or reprobates because we don't trust the news. Because it's the people who trust the news who sign off on all the BS, the wars, increased taxation, and everything else. That's really inimical to human freedom. You guys are the ones justifying hyper-realistic school shooting drills that really put kids in danger, and worse. And you probably won't even call in, so you don't even mean it. Like, we get these people come in here, and they want to criticize us, but they do it in a half-assed way because you're not even willing to call in. So if you can't call in, then I have to assume that you don't even believe what you're saying. I mean, what else am I supposed to take from that? You don't even believe it, you don't take it that seriously, and you're not even committed to the comments that you're making. That's what I'm taking out of what you're saying here. Now, I had some great stuff here that was just posted to me on my minds.com. Give me just a moment. This is great. Someone sent me some original clips. This is vintage Keeping Up with the Crisis Actors. Yeah, call in if you want to call in. We got somebody who wants to defend CNN, even though he's not getting paid. 505-510-4226. Call in and defend the mainstream media narratives if you feel like that's your prerogative. I'm sure Rachel Maddow will thank you. I'm sure the PSYOP industrial complex will thank you. Big Brother will thank you. So call in and do your work. You got to police those thoughts out there. You got some people who don't agree with the mainstream news. Oh, this is great. I was given a great collection of this is just a clip of Speak Penguin or Die. Beetle Freakers posted it this morning. Bunch of penguins. Anyway, let's see. Is he going to call in and defend his definition of armchair quarterback? No, he's going to be an armchair quarterback. He's not a real quarterback. He's not going to call in. See, if you weren't an armchair quarterback, Arwin 67 or whatever, you'd be calling in right now, and you would say, "How dare you?" You know, you would express your outrage. But instead, you're going to what? You're just going to sit there and apply butthurt self. You know, come on. Another armchair quarterback. He said, "Haven't you guys ever been on a plane?" Yeah, I have. Haven't you ever done any math? Don't you know that 10,000 feet, 20,000 feet, 30,000 feet, 50,000 feet isn't high enough to see any curvature? Hey caller, how high do you have to be to see the curvature of the Earth?
34,000 feet.
Wrong.
I've been there.
You didn't see the curve from that high.
Yeah, I have.
You saw the curve from how many feet? 35,000 feet?
34,000 feet. You can't see it at 24. You can see a hint of it at 34,000 feet.
34.
I'm a pilot. I'm in the front seat. I can see it.
Okay, so for people here who haven't seen the curve, what would you say to those who say that when you look at high altitude balloon footage at 120,000 feet, the horizon is apparently flat?
Because the camera they're using is a GoPro, and everything's distorted on there.
Yeah, well, it distorts concave, convex, and then it goes flat. Let's see.
There's so many. No, because it's not an actual view of the Earth. It's skewed at every angle because everything's moving and changing on the camera, on the lens.
So you don't have a flat one. Okay, so the Red Bull jump, if you remember the Red Bull jump, that guy used a GoPro lens, and it didn't settle for many people because he went up 20 miles up, and so it looked like Planet New Mexico. So for a lot of people, this question won't be answered until they get higher footage. No one's accepting the 30,000 feet, and the GoPro is causing problems for some people. So Mad Mike Hughes, they got 12 cameras they're going to do. Some will be GoPro, some won't, and they're trying to aim for 62 miles. 62 miles. I've been told 50 miles will make the case one way or the other. I've been told 50 miles is the minimum distance you'd have to go to perceive it if we're on a ball the size they say. So what do you say to that?
How is Mike going to get 50 miles up with what he's got?
They're using a Rockoon. It's a 400-foot diameter balloon that carries the rocket capsule. So it's a rocket being pulled by a balloon past the densest part of the atmosphere where they would reach the most resistance. They go 20 plus miles, and then the rocket launches through that. It's not just him, he's got a team. And this is part of Homemade Astronauts. It's a Science Channel program, and it's designed to get him up 60 miles live streamed. He wants to go 3 times higher than the guy who did the Red Bull jump.
Well, absolutely. I think that's awesome. I think we should all look forward to that and see what comes of that that experience. Let's see what happens.
Well, it's going to be live, and that's the thing. So
yeah, that's absolutely awesome.
And
cool.
I actually think that if it is a ball, people will see it before he's even gone up to a full 60 miles up. I mean, obviously.
Yeah. Oh, obviously, yeah. And I look forward to seeing it.
Well, it'll be on Homemade Astronauts. Actually, the TV show starting, he's doing another shorter distance steam-powered rocket jump. But he's not invested in an answer either way. But he's like, well, you're not going to get there with debates, and you're not going to get there when people don't trust the space program. So what's your take on the moon landing? Real or fake?
I don't know, but go back to the Mike thing. Let's see where the dice falls. And, let's play it out. Let's see what happens. As far as moon landing, I mean, I'm going to take, it happened. I mean, you can look at some of the footage from down here, from what's that guy's Seazall, I think Brad Seazall or something like that. He's got some really, really, really good footage of the moon.
Well, the moon landing, the reason why I don't think it's real is I think it looks like it looks like a movie set to me, is what it looks like. I've got a number of books on the topic, but I don't think it's just the moon landing that's fake. I think they're faking low Earth orbit.
Well, I don't think they're faking low or orbit, but I mean, we don't know until we actually see it for ourselves. I mean, we got to check it ourselves, right? Like research it, like from our point of view or your point of view, or.
Well, wait, let me bring this up again. Okay, so everyone who's listening, we've got 123 domestic terrorists. This is an actual pilot who's 34,000 feet up, and he says that if you're in the cockpit, you're that high up, you do see it curved, but that we don't see it on the higher altitudes because it's a GoPro that's flattening it artificially. Is that what you're suggesting?
I am suggesting that. You're seeing a hint of it. You don't see it at 24, but at 34 you see a hint of it. At 24,000 feet, it looks like the Earth looks like a dish, like as if you held a dish to your face. You don't see a curve. You see that you can see a roundness, like it's a round, like a cylinder. As you get higher, you can see a hint of it. And if you put your fingers out probably about 1.5 feet, at that, in that space of your POV or point of view, you can see a hint of a curve. As you look left to right, in that 1.5 feet, you can see a hint of a curve. And I've never been higher than that, but I know if I go higher, that curve would go more.
Isn't it interesting though? It's been like 3 or 4 years now since this topic has been back and forth, and Mike is the only person, really, honestly, as an entire group, who has come up with a plan to go that high. And there's all these conferences, all this money going into this topic, and they want nothing to do with him. So last year, we brought Mike over into the conference, and we just said, hey, just pull it in. He got his limo, and he pulled his rocket in, and he tried to get the group behind him because he's trying to raise $2 million. Thankfully, because of that attention we got, and the Science Channel picked him up, and it's going to happen. So he wants to go down as not only the world's greatest daredevil, but the guy who brings an end to this debate for all time.
I welcome that. I would love to see that because I want to learn to fly so I can get higher to see this. I want to see it for myself. And being from the front, he's like, I never saw it until it was a clear day, 34,000 feet. It's like, oh shit, it's there because at 24, like I said, it looked like a dish, like a bowl. Like if you put a plate in front of you, you can see. If you look to the left and right, you see that it curves around you, not in a up or down, but in a left or right. You can see it's like a plate. But as you get higher, the 34, you can see it actually bends down just a hint. And I can't see it's flat anymore, like you see in some of these videos. And when I'm against these GoPros, because it's so obscure, because you see it goes concave, flat, and it curves down. It's like it's so flimsy, you can't really make a real assessment of that. So I want to see a real camera on that where it actually gives you how your eye would actually see it.
Well, here's what they got, and I've already seen it. I've seen the capsule. So basically, he's going to be in a capsule standing up like the Red Bull jump guy did. And so the balloon takes him up past like the first 20 miles, like we said. And then if all systems go, and this is going to be, it's going to take, I think he said, a couple hours to get up there. It's all going to be live streamed. There's going to be multiple cameras. There may even be some infrared ones. We're going to have his point of view, but it's going to be live, so no one can dispute the footage. So there can't be any crybabies going home that night saying,
absolutely.
But I wanted it to be
and
this.
I would say he needs to go up 10 miles to see it. But if he wants to go 20, that's fine. But I think at 10 miles, you're going to see a big hint.
Now, that's
or
interesting.
A hint of it, Because 35,000 feet is what? Divided by 5 is like, I don't know, 8 almost 7 miles, 8 miles.
Right.
Go 10. I mean, you don't need to go 20 miles.
Well, this is what I was thinking too, and I brought this up before because I've been trying to get people on all sides of this conversation to get behind it. And I've been saying, well, look, if you guys are right and it's a ball, then he's going to see it long before he pulls the lever to blast up into space. He might be able to figure it out just with the balloon ride. And he's part of a show called Homemade Astronauts. It's got 3 guys. One of them is just on a balloon, high altitude balloon. Mike's doing the rocket balloon combination, and I've seen it. And he's going to be in a spacesuit in a pressurized capsule. And it's going to be end of the summer this year. So to me, this conversation's coming to an end one way or the other. I have some questions here from people since you're a pilot. They want to know, does your plane ever get refueled? Do you take part in the refueling process? Do you personally witness that?
Yeah, I do. Before we take off, and sometimes we take extra fuel because it costs extra to go to an external airport to fuel there. So we take extra fuel. I watch them fuel it up. It's all fueled in the wings, and you got a center tank.
Okay, good. Yeah, some people don't believe it can be filled in the wings, but you have to look at the inside of the construction.
It is.
It's designed so it doesn't slosh.
I mean, how many of these people have actually been next to an actual plane? Because
that's why I'm asking you.
Because these things are big. They're huge. They're massive.
It is funny, though. There are people who live entirely through their cameras. And not only that, but they don't talk to the people who would be in those areas. So I'm like, okay, like when it comes to planes, there are people who are saying, well, maybe planes are shooting out these chemtrails. And this is one of the things I hate hearing. So I'm like, well, look, are you implicating all these people and dumping toxins in the atmosphere? Do you ever call the airports?
I've never seen a chemtrail button on my display. I've never seen it. I've looked for it. I've asked for it, and there's no chemtrail button to push chemtrails on this thing. My planes I fly, it's commercial. We don't dump chemtrails. It's condensation.
Well, this has been well known for a long time, and this theory that
it could be military stuff that does that, but it's not commercial.
Right, but then that's what they say. They'll say, well, it's the military doing it. But if it's the case, they're still pointing, a lot of the pictures, they're still pointing at commercial airlines left and right. So, I mean, I don't believe in the chemtrail thing. I think that's
I don't either. I think it's farce.
Now, what are your thoughts on the UFOs? Flying saucers?
I don't believe in them. I don't believe them. I've never seen one. I've been in the skies for years. I've been a pilot since 2008, helicopters and commercial planes. I've never seen one. I don't believe it. So until I see it, I'm not saying it doesn't exist, but until I actually see it with my own eyes, I don't believe it. Yeah, like this whole curve thing. I mean, I had to go up high just to see it for myself. But, I'm not going to believe any alien because everyone else says it's real and the news says it's real. I've never seen anything. I've been up there. I've never seen it. So why should I?
I was just watching this documentary called Mirageman, where it was talking about how the beliefs in UFOs were actually spread by special agents, intelligence operations, and it started in Albuquerque, New Mexico. There was some guy watching things leave Kirtland. So he started spreading conspiracy theories about UFOs, and they sent the NSA into his life to start dropping hints and giving him what
I heard that, yeah.
And they basically got him to become this big UFO guy.
To believe it,
and it gave them cover for years. And I'm like, that's To me, chemtrails is probably part of that same type of operation. I don't think there's anything ominous about it. And I always ask people, I'm like, well, if you think there's something happening, why aren't you suing or something? Why do you just talk about it online?
And well, you think about the people talking about it, it's like, okay, how many people are still smoking? How many people are vaping? And then complaining about the environment. The sky is falling on them, and chemtrails are killing them because there's unknown chemicals out there. But yet they're the ones who are vaping, smoking, all this stuff. So, like, what are you doing to yourself that might be affecting you, but you want to blame it on something else? Because this is a society that won't take responsibility for themselves. They blame everybody else for what's happening to them. I'm going to blame everybody else for what's happening here.
Yeah, we've been calling Richie from Boston out on that for a while because he's always hotboxing his Jeep with vape juice, complaining about chemtrails. And I'm like, I think you're probably chemtrailing yourself. Okay, so if you haven't seen it, you should go to realrocketman.com and watch Mike's documentary. He's been a daredevil for years. He's done long distance limousine jumps. Then he's gotten to steam powered rockets, and now he's got the plan and the team around him. I've seen the craft. He's going to go to space this summer, or try to anyway. 62 miles up is the Kármán line.
I will definitely check it out. I look forward to it because I want to see like real proof from like real people.
All right, well, I appreciate the call. Definitely, everyone, this is a pilot. We never get pilots to call in, and so there you go. Someone's going to say, they'll probably say you're a shill, but all you're saying is like, you're not going to see it for 34,000, unless you're 34,000 feet up, and that to explain the high altitude balloon footage, we're not actually seeing a flat horizon there. We're seeing the GoPro. Interesting. Yeah. Okay, well, thanks for your input. If anybody has any follow-ups, they'll call in after. Thanks. Have a great night.
Good night.
Okay, phones are open, 505-510-4226. So, look, if you look at the screen here, 120,000 feet. At some points, it's going to look convex. At other points, it's going to look concave. And at other points, it's going to look flat. He's suggesting, and this is a pilot, that this is not reliable. You cannot conclude flat from this. Moreover, he says 34,000 feet. See, Jimmy Kimmel, no, you can't see the curve from your front lawn. But 34,000 feet is what he's saying is the cutoff point. I've heard others say 50 miles. But we're also talking about direct observation, which is very different from what the camera shows you.
Hey, what's going on?
And whoever asked him about the fuel, yes, they do actually fuel these things up. All right, I'm going through comments here. If anybody has anything else to add. Not Lickety said he sounds like a stoner. Is there anyone here who isn't? If you missed this is just the weirdest thing. We might get into this later. Adam Sandler's Uncut Gems opening. They have The Weeknd's wig from 2002 on display. A caller before that was talking about this church shooting. And if you watch this church shooting, and I have the actual footage, a few things about it. Yes, it does look staged. And I think Trump behind it to get votes. Hey, what's up, caller?
Hey, how are you doing? This is X Factor Firefly. So, go ahead.
Yeah, so hey, what are your thoughts about this a pilot suggesting that you can't see the curve unless you're 34,000 feet up? Does that sound legit?
The pilots that I know and the people that I know, they've told me that they've never seen the curve. And I've asked him. I had a buddy who's a pilot, and he said he's never seen the curve. Now he still believes the Earth is round, but he said that NASA says you got to be in low Earth orbit to be able to see it. So, he still believes in the NASA thing, but he's never seen the curve. So
interesting.
I've been in a plane twice, and I was more interested in looking down than looking at the horizon. So to be honest, I'm not going to say I can say either way.
Every time I've flown, I've always marveled at how the clouds look. It looks like just like this endless flat plane, but I never consciously looked for a curve, and I never, it does kind of look like the pilot described, like a plate, like you do see this kind of flat, expands and it's rounded, but it's just your circle of vision. But yeah, as far as should we expect to see curve from the point of view of a human being on the ground, no way. And even Neil Armstrong said that on the moon that the horizon was bendy and is disorienting. It's like, no way. The moon is a quarter the size of the Earth. If it is what they say it is, you would experience the moon as flat.
Yeah, I agree with all that. I think there's a lot of lying in the whole thing that just makes it to the point where I'm interested in seeing. You just told the other guy who it was, and I'm interested in seeing those citizen astronauts do their thing. That'll be pretty cool.
Yeah, I think it's going to be one of these things where, the way that beliefs work, and I've seen this in small communities and, of course, large groups of people, when you have an echo chamber, you're not going to change the belief of that echo chamber unless something drowns it out. And so, like, you could have all these observations from the ground. You could have all these independent confirmations. I saw, I can see the curve at 34,000. And it's not going to make a difference until everybody sees it at once. And that's been Mike's contention. So he gets up in his balloon, and he gets up 20,000 feet, 30,000 feet. Once he gets up there to a certain height, if it's there, it's there, and it's going to be witnessed by millions of people live. He said that the Red Bull jump had 7 million live viewers.
Yeah, I watched the Red Bull jump live, so yeah, I believe it.
Oh, I didn't see it live, so that's kind of what this one's going to be. It's analogous to that, just a whole lot higher.
Yeah, that's really cool. I also watched that video of that rocket that did that weird thing when it got to a particular height. The one that you'll hear a lot of the flat earthers say it hit the dome, and then you'll see other people, and you hear something happens in the video, and I'm not sure what happens. The video does do something funny when it gets to a particular point, and the rocket doesn't spin the same.
Mike talked about it. Yeah, Mike talked about that the other day. So he actually knows the guy who launched it. And this is Mad Mike Hughes. He said that's the yo-yo de-spin mechanism, so that when it goes 73 miles up, it pops the parachute, and it went viral as it hit something. So that's the actual explanation, and that's one of the things I've been against here are false positives. So I'm fine with being wrong. If I'm proven wrong on a case-to-case basis, if an argument is wrong, I like it to be exposed. And so in that case, we did find the answer.
Yeah, see, that's cool. It was an interesting video. I had heard so many different ideas, so I'm glad that somebody that actually knows what the real answer is. That's awesome. So my one quick question I want to jump over to, he was talking about no chemtrail button, and you said you don't believe in chemtrails. So I am just curious what you think is when it makes marks in the sky, and they stay, what do you think that is? Just from a mindset.
Okay, so first I want to make a distinction. Are we talking about commercial airplanes, or these mysterious military jets?
I'm saying that anytime you look up in the sky and any type of plane went over, and a long period of time there is a new white cloud appears. Yes. Because of the plane flying over.
Right. Well, I would say that those are what they describe to be as condensation trails. It's just trails left behind by the engines, nothing nefarious necessarily added to them. And we're talking about commercial airlines, right?
Let me just pause for a second. So what's leaving the engines? Are you just saying that it's just the heat or water left over from leaving the engines?
And that combined with the high altitude. So different atmospheric conditions at that height, it's going to be more persistent. So yeah, basically non-toxic.
Okay, so what makes you think, and you'll see where I'm going in just a second, what makes you think non-toxic?
Well, what makes me think non-toxic? First of all, we've been seeing them all this time. I haven't seen any evidence of toxicity. Like, the trees aren't exactly dying. I'm not choking every morning. Anybody who is suffering, it's probably because they're vaping or drinking too much. Like, it's not from the clouds or what's being put out there.
Okay, so I'm going to respectfully disagree with that. And here's the reason. So I'm a farmer. I've been farming for 15 years. First off, when the one thing that those clouds do, regardless of what the reason is they block the sunlight and they don't allow certain UV to get down to the plants. So even if it is just condensation left over, it is directly affecting how I grow. The other thing I'm concerned of
Wait. Stop really quick though. Is now when you say it affects how you grow, are you referring to commercial like Delta, Southwest Airlines, and all these? Are you talking?
I'm referring to whatever is leaving the marks in the sky. And I'm not. I can't currently tell you if that is a commercial jet leaving the line or if that is another jet leaving the line. But I document every day. I take pictures of the sky. Clear days, not clear days. It's just part of when I live stream. That's part of what I do. And so I see planes fly over, and I take pictures and talk about the sky. So I don't know what planes they are. I'm not even going to pass any judgment if they're military or not military. Even if they're just contrails and they're coming through the jet engines, they're picking up some type of residue that is going to ultimately get down to the surface. I mean, you buy a brand new hose and you run water through that hose, you're going to be picking up some type of chemical residue that's going to ultimately affect the soil if you would keep running a bunch of new pipes or a bunch of new hoses. So if there is fragments of jet fuel mixing in with that and it happens to be coming to the ground, it is actually affecting the ground, maybe on a very small scale, but over multiple years and an increase of jets flying over, you're going to start getting a buildup of the soil on a very small scale. And I'm saying this because maybe some of the chemtrail ideas and some of the stuff they get isn't nefarious. It's just a byproduct of something that people aren't thinking about. It is a byproduct of laziness and not cleaning the engines properly and not having them function properly.
Well, that's very different from an intentional effort to pesticide the human race over a period of decades.
Well, yes, but it still could be. There could be part of them are doing it on purpose, and part of it is not being done on purpose. Just as a commercial jet is still leaving a contrail, but it's also still leaving a chemical signature that comes down, compared to the military is spraying really toxic, nasty gick, and you can't. And when you look up at the sky, unless you really know what to look for, you can't actually see the difference in them. But they're both having a negative reaction.
So how could we prove it definitively? I mean, I hear people talk about certain studies that were done by somebody they don't know who tested the soil. Like, is there a way that this could be definitively proven to exist? And then I also would wonder, like, if it's random, if there's no way of telling which plane is doing it. That's the part I find kind of wishy-washy, where I'm like, well, who's doing it? Private airlines? And they say, no, it's these shadowy military ones. Well, where? Who's filling them up? You know, what's going in it? It just seems like a huge genocidal operation, and there aren't any whistleblowers, nothing legitimate. And it's just, I'm wondering, like, how do we prove this once and for all?
Okay, so first way that I would go through it, if I lived in a place that was more heavily chemtrailed than I am, and I've actually been talking to some of my friends that live fairly near places that are very heavily chemtrailed, to set up a controlled greenhouse that you have the soil, and you actually bring in, and you would have to put booties on every time you go in, so you're not contaminating the soil by bringing any outside stuff in, and you have outside soil and inside soil, and then you would test over an extended period of time. You give it a year or so and see how much difference is. Now you are running one variable, and that would be the rain is a variable that also could be adding stuff into the soil. So that's an uncontrollable variable that would be hard to figure out, but that would be the best way to test that. And the only way that I know that you could possibly do the plane thing is bring up one of those plane trackers, and every time a plane flies over that leaves one of those trails, positively identify which plane it is.
See, here's what I've been thinking, and I could be wrong. That's why I'm asking, because you've obviously done a lot more research on this. I've been thinking that there's a psychological operation being waged on the masses, and they've managed to maintain a fear of the sky and a sense of dread and uncertainty, a very primal fear on everybody. So if you're on the far left, you fear climate change. If you're on the far right, you fear wrath of God. Again, wrath comes from, rapture comes from above. Then, of course, if you're not on the left or the right, you tend to fear chemtrails. in all instances, there's fear of the sky is like inculcated into all the major worldviews. And so I've been wondering, could this just be a psyop to make you afraid that, we're being judged from above?
That's a valid point. And I can see where you're going with that. That is something I have to think about, because being that everything I do is directly related to the sky. I pay a lot more attention to the sky than the average person does, but I have no fear of it because it provides me everything. If it wasn't for the sky and what we see up there, I wouldn't be able to provide with what I'm trying to do. So I have to really think about that whole psyop as a fear tactic, because that's way outside of anything I would ever believe.
Well, check this out really quick here. A commenter says, there's an app called FlightAware. You can track and find out which are the planes that are dumping the suspected trails. Interesting.
Yeah, there's another. I can link some people to another app that also includes most military planes and things of that sort. That is a little bit better than FlightAware. FlightAware has about up to a 45-minute delay time for when when you see a plane and such fly over, and that can actually make it not as useful. But thanks for. I'll share my link. But yeah, FlightAware is at least at the beginning. So.
Yeah. Okay. So to me, it's still, that's what I'm trying to get to now. I'm trying to get to this because there are some people who deal with this in different ways. Like, there's a channel I know of, I think they're called Event Skeptic, and what they do is they literally pray at the chemtrails, which they say are actually like being put there by demons. Other channels, there are people who pray at the chemtrails, which they believe to be some type of demonic.
I know some people that make the argon crystals that think they're making chemtrail busters with argon crystals and copper pipes, but I've never seen anybody pray for them. That's intriguing. Interesting.
Yeah. Well, hey, I appreciate the call very much. I'm definitely going to take it into consideration, and anytime you want to call in and chime in on this topic, please do, because I'm not trying to curate people's realities here. I'm trying to figure out what we're actually seeing. And I do find it conspicuous that so many people are pointing at this thing, and it's been 21 years now, that chemtrails have been like viral and mainstream.
Oh yeah, you brought a very valid point that I'm really going to have to sit down and think about with that center fear tactic. I would have not thought about like that. So thank you for opening my mind and let me think about something in another way. And if I discover anything new, I will let you know.
Yeah, and I am interested on what you've been talking about as far as the effects of these trails, whatever they are, as screening the sunlight and how that directly affects the ground. So yeah, call in anytime and drop your DLive channel. And what's your channel again?
X Dr. Firefly.
Awesome. Yeah, spam your link and everybody here will subscribe to your channel.
Okay, thanks. Have a wonderful night.
All right, you too. Okay, good little throwback here. Keeping Up with the Crisis Actors. If you remember, the shooting, that's X Dr. Firefly. X Dr. Firefly, great channel. His perspective on chemtrails might be a little more informed than mine. Okay, so Hogg's original edited version. This is the original. This is David Hogg interviewing people inside of the closet during the shooting.
An active shooter. It's not a drill.
He says it's not a drill. And he's whispering. The thing is, his original story, he was 3 miles away, and then he bicycled over to the school, ringing his little bell, ding, ding, get out of the way, I'm going to be a reporter. And then when he's there, he reports on the shooting. But here he is already in the school. So this contradicted his story.
And it's currently...
Hello?
It's 2:52.
Where are you right now?
I heard one gunshot. We thought it was a drill initially, but...
We thought it was a drill initially. Then he interviews her. And so they're apparently being shot at, and while they're being shot at, he's asking her opinions about the Second Amendment.
The drill went outside, and then people started running because there were shots. I didn't hear them personally, and then I started running.
Again, they're hiding in a closet, but this is where he gives it away. He says, okay, do I have your permission to record you? It's February, Valentine's Day, it's 9:32 a.m.
That was more well articulated in my head.
Oh, she laughed. It's a little more well articulated in my head. Hey, you'll get better. Just keep acting. It's just something you got to practice.
Do you want to say anything else?
No.
This is Alex View.
Okay, he says, this is Alex View, recording taking at 9:32 a.m., February 14th, 2018. So this recording right here happens 6 hours before the shooting.
This recording was taken at 9:32, February 14th, 2018. Alex, are you okay with me recording this?
Yes, I am okay with you recording this.
Okay.
Make sure she signs a release. May want to make sure she gets paid. You know, what do these crisis actors get paid? So, happy Valentine's Day from Hoggy the Clown. This is a little salute. I think this was posted by, let's see, who gave us this gem here? This is a great piece.
Hi guys, by the time you see this, I should be 3 states over at some parking lot carnival, filling in as Bobo the Clown in a dunk tank. I just want to say sorry to my mom and dad and friends if I had any. But Dad, you said this was going to be so easy, and I'd be so popular when it's all over. Well, not so much. I can't even go through a fast food drive-thru after midnight without everyone making fun and laughing at me.
Who sent me that? I thought it was an actual David Hogg video. Okay, let's see. We did go over... Okay, we were looking at this... I don't even want to get into it, really. There's some strange stuff going on. Owen Benjamin is having a Mandela effect awakening. Yep, Owen Benjamin is Mandoozled. Unwilling to accept the standard explanations given that mass memory is not reliable, that your memory is only so reliable, but it can be influenced by suggestion. I have a clip from 60 Minutes where an expert on the topic of memory is discussing how she could give you a picture of Bugs Bunny at Disneyland, an hour later ask you about the first time you went to Disneyland, and you might recollect Bugs Bunny as having been there. And she's talked, and so what we're saying is that the idea of your memory being malleable really contradicts all of the claims of the Mandela affected, but a lot of people lack that basic understanding about how faulty our memory is. And so Owen Benjamin is Mandoozled.
How about this gravy? Now there's historical events now that are totally different. Like there was Germany had a terrorist attack on America in 1916 that got shrapnel in the Statue of Liberty. It was called Black Thumb. It was like this massive event. They had like 100 pounds of...
Anyway, it's proof that we're in a parallel universe, that you weren't taught about this particular attack in school. Everything you don't know is now a Mandela effect and proof of a parallel universe.
Because if you don't believe, like mirror on the wall, if you can be convinced that it's magic mirror on the wall, you're just, it's not fluid reality in my opinion though.
So apparently the reality that we're in is fluid, and our proof, misremembered catchphrases. What makes catchphrases catchy is often not necessarily a strict adherence to what originally was said, but what makes it funny to be retold, or what makes it worth retelling. Like the Luke, I'm your father thing. It wouldn't make sense if you said I'm your father as a joke, if you're doing an impersonation. By saying Luke first, you contextualize it, and you're like, oh, you're Darth, I'm Luke. So it's just how they framed it, and that's how people use it in parodies. And if you watch the movie, when Darth Vader says, Luke, I'm your father, or he says, no, I'm your father, his voice is so distorted, you can hardly tell what he says. I just assumed he said Luke. It's not proof of a parallel universe.
But if you can get someone to convince himself it was always magic mirror on the wall, like they'll believe anything. Maybe why don't we just contact the author of the Berenstain Bears and find out?
But actually, to give him, look, Owen Benjamin is not exactly Mandoozled. I watched it in its entirety, and he kept on suggesting that it could be what he called poison gravy. Poison gravy, which I guess poison gravy means bad for you or something. A couple more things I want to go over here. We were doing some more investigation into this deep fake phenomenon, and I found some very bizarre videos of and pictures of Justin Bieber making out with mannequins. Short-Faced Bear says that stream was a year and a half ago. Oh, he moved past it. Okay. Okay. By the way, tomorrow a high altitude explosion may happen that will be like having multiple high altitude nuclear detonations. We're having some asteroids hitting us tomorrow that could shut off everything. Like, they report this every week, so it's happening again apparently. Short-Faced Bear says poison gravy is bad theoretical speculation. Okay, I didn't think he took it all that seriously. I was kind of curious because some of the people around him are. Like here they're saying, hey, the earth is flat and there's something called the Mandela effect occurring. May God bless you in these end of days. Copy this CD and give it to your friends and family. Like, look, I don't think I'm the only one here who thinks that any belief system that ends with a doomsday is probably a cult. And there's a doomsday in this little bit of flat earth / Mandela effect propaganda. Commenter says Mandela is real. When I was young, boys were boys, girls were girls, and Pluto was a planet. Well, we've been talking about Disney a bit, and we've been talking about Mousegate. And we've been talking about how possibly just fabricated much of the news about outer space happens to be. And, you know, we've been looking a lot at the iconography of the whole space, outer space, as it's represented to us in popular culture. You know, like one of the moons that goes around Saturn looks just like the Death Star. But this came out a couple years ago where they found out that, yeah, there's actually Pluto the dog can be seen on the side of Pluto the planet. You know, to me, this is just another one of these jokes, kind of like Mousegate. And we've had how many now? How many examples that I think are pure, pure examples of obvious tampering? Okay, you've seen this one. Okay, so you've seen this. This is Pluto. This is Pluto on the planet Pluto. Okay, so now let's look at Mimas, M-I-M-A-S, and this is Saturn's moon. And here's why this is significant. Saturn's moon looks exactly like the Death Star. And if you look at the symbolism of the Star Wars film, Darth Vader represents Saturn. So for Darth Vader to have the Death Star and Saturn's moon to look like this, coincidence? No. In fact, there's a few more things. I want to do a whole video. I've been thinking about this lately because I've come up with a lot of things looking at Star Wars with new eyes here. Like when Luke gets his hand cut off and he hangs in Cloud City and then he has his hand reattached. Well, that's all very significant. You're seeing the old image of Kronos devouring his son, or Saturn cutting his child, or Abraham and Isaac. It's the astrotheological story. So Darth Vader is definitely a part in this astrotheological play, and all of Star Wars is, and it all looks like a big Disney production. And you get down to all the hoaxery. Okay, here's another one for you. You have the Starship. Elon Musk's rocket is called the Starship, like the Starship Enterprise. And this was found on the surface of Mars recently. It's a plateau, and it's shaped like the Star Trek logo. It even has markings, kind of similar. So here's another example of science fiction and reality mixing. Then you have the Mars Project by Wernher von Braun, where he wrote about a civilization on Mars. It's called A Technical Tale, Project Mars. And he talked about how it would be set up like kind of like the papacy, with lifetime appointees as far as its government. It even looks like one of Musk's rockets today. I mean, he's still using this old like 1960s sci-fi. Anyway, the first settlement on Mars has this new political structure, and it has a series of dictators. And the dictator here is named Elon. And this is from a science fiction book. So just another example. To me, this is just how they're selling the masses on this space utopia. And of course, culture, pop culture is where they want to plant everything, because then later it'll affect you when you make your political decisions. So, but there's a lot more to this, but let's move on. So just to be clear, what's his name? Owen Benjamin's not Menduzeled. And the Mandela effect, or the Menduzel effect, as you all know, is a product of interrogator bias more than anything. In fact, I'm going to give you a link right now. If you haven't read it, it's a free book. You can read it for free. It's called Menduzeled, The Mandela Effect Debunked. Here it is. Starts off with Hitchens' razor, which is kind of a fine-tuning of Occam's razor. What can be asserted without evidence can be dismissed without evidence, and this includes, Bigfoot, UFOs, aliens, many other things. But the Mandela effect is one of these things where it is defined, pretty much specifically what is the main characteristic of the Mandela effect, and what they all have in common. There's no evidence for it. Like, it really is that simple. And it's something that I would put on the other side of truth. You have this idea of being a truther, trying to elucidate the truth. And then you have this idea of, let's introduce the metaphysical. And I'm not saying the metaphysical is wrong, but I am saying that you are mistaken if you think that the two are somehow synonymous. That you can use logic and reason half the time, and then the rest of the time default to metaphysical explanations. That's just as bad as pseudoscience. Okay, so before we go, I just want to reinforce this Mousegate. This is from Critical Inception, another SpaceX rocket rat. This one is even clearer than the first. And we still haven't come to a perfect answer as to what this is. Like I said earlier, I did talk to somebody today who knows quite a bit about these rockets, and he said that the Merlin engine in question is 4 feet in diameter. So you're looking here, this is 4 feet in diameter. And maybe it's consistent. I suggested a wharf rat. Let me mute that music there. So what you see here within the red circle, and I'm giving you a link so you can see it for yourself, is what appears to be a rat. He has 2 ears that are lit by the light source. We were told by Mick West of Metabunk that this was ice, or possibly a video compression error. But I'm saying if this is ice, if this is frozen oxygen condensate moving at Mach 8, it somehow fashioned itself into a mouse, and then it moved like a mouse. So that's one, and here's the other one. Same thing. In 2 different launches. These are 2 different rockets. Lickety Split says 2020 cover of Economist has a radioactive rat being mentioned. Let me see if I can get that cover. There may be subtext. There really might be. Because what we're looking at here is Chinese Year of the Rat. Musk is out there in China right now as we speak, dancing on the stage like a moron. But so you might say, well, this is just ice. Well, that moves like a mouse. It looks like a mouse. It's got ears. So you see that one. Sanctus says Chihuahua. Well, its proportions are certainly cartoonish. What about this? So are we to believe that we have 2 different instances of ice at Mach 8 forming into mobile ice sculptures? Mobile ice sculptures? Have you ever seen an ice sculpture walk? Is that what happens at Mach 8? But its proportions, it looks like a possum. Memento says Musk went out to check out Mars in China. Well, if you're rich enough in China, you can go to Mars. Look. If you search for Mars vacations in China, yep. Look here, actually, China's already, they've been big on this. Simulating Mars landings. China has entire areas where they simulate the red planet, and you can actually go out there and you can camp. You can live in a simulated Martian environment. They've been doing that for a while. So, yeah, if they're going to fake Mars and populate it with a bunch of brainwashees, they'll probably do it in China. Again, we're looking here at a mouse. So I've been trying to rule out, what could this be? So it's either ice, because it can't be video compression errors. And all the best minds on the topic, Fight the Flat Earth, Red's Rhetoric, and Mick West, they all said it's ice. So I have to go with what they said. They're the subject matter experts. That would mean that this is also ice. Now, if it's not ice, well, we know it's not a mouse if it's in space, because it would be dead. So if it is a real mouse, then this is on Earth, and it's in a movie studio, which is what I first thought. I thought, well, maybe somebody says, is this the only camera angle? Yeah. If you haven't watched any SpaceX launches, you only get a fixed position here. But that's not the only video. There's multiple launches that show the same phenomenon. So this is a link here, and you're welcome to look at it and try to determine what you think it is. Something else worth noting. Okay, so genetically modified mice. Mighty Mouse. On December the 5th, 2019, SpaceX was sending genetically modified mice into space. Here's from Futurism. SpaceX supermuscular mice sent to the International Space Station. This is the same day, the same launch, where we see this. So what are the odds that Mighty Mouse is being sent to the space station, and that during that same launch, we're going to see all kinds of mice on their Merlin engines? So what I'm suggesting here is that this has to be, like, if you're going to assume space is real, it has to be a CGI mouse. That's not ice. If you think space is fake, then you have to figure out, well, is this a real mouse on a model rocket, part of a staged event presented as real? Or is this an after effect that some saboteur or some employee put in there as a joke because it's Mighty Mouse, the Mighty Mouse mission? Does anybody here have any other explanations for what this could be? Lean Dion says synthol mice taking space selfies. Oh yeah. This mouse here, definitely. So look, I'm calling it a mouse because it's shaped like a mouse, it moves like a mouse. Voodoo Chili says this is retarded. Well, I'd like you to call in and explain to me what you think it is. If you can. I mean, do you work for NASA? Do you work for SpaceX? Is there anything stopping you from defending your belief system here? Because what we're seeing is something shaped like a mouse, and you can't deny that. Whatever your explanation for it, you cannot, without being dishonest, you cannot say it doesn't move and look like a mouse. It retains its structural integrity. As it slides down the side of the Merlin rocket, lighting from the left facing the right, it has a shadow on the right. Its ears are lit according to the lighting. Its ears bend and fold as they brush up against the rim. So again, you want to call it ice, by all means, call it ice. And then also you can call in and explain to me how if you add 2 + 2, you get 5. Full as Bum says it's a real mouse, but it's wearing latex ears. Mousacabra. Looks like a Pokemon. Yep, all the above. Voodoo Chili says it's a Pikachu. And we even have better clips. Look, this isn't the highest definition of it. The higher the definition you look, the more mouse-like it looks. And that's why I keep bringing this up. Mousegate is real. It is Year of the Rat. Short-Faced Bear says, so technically it's not a mouse, it's a rat. I'm at the point now where I think that this is CGI. That's what I think. So then it brings up a question. If this is CGI, when did they add it? Because this was a live launch. So you have a live launch, the rocket goes up out of sight, out of mind, and then it cuts to this. So who was able to slip the CGI mouse into a live launch? That's where you run into trouble if you want to defend this thing. So is anybody here able to come up with anything? Every day we're going to ask. And if you missed it earlier, we got an award by the Dumb Fucks. It was a Dumb Fucks of the Year award. It was awarded to us by Red's Rhetoric and Company because of this. Because I refuse to accept that this is ice. Now, I would have said, okay, fine, it's ice. I could have let this one go if it wasn't for the second one and the third one. These aren't the only ones. P. Showman says, like the 9/11 thing, compositing CGI onto a feed. Now, that's possible. It could be an overlay, but I doubt it. It is possible, though. I thought, well, maybe it's sabotage. You know, maybe Jeff Bezos has some worker there who says, hey, could you, I don't know, throw a mouse in there since it's... I think it could even be an inside joke. I mean, an inside joke on... Because, look, Elon Musk is the guy who said, well, of course, it looks... Of course, it must be real because it looks so fake. So if somebody's asking for more, so let's take a look. This is the SpaceX CRS-19 launch, and here's a link here. It's called the Commercial Resupply Services. They've done 19 out of 20. So this was the 19th mission, and this was the one where they sent Mighty Mouse into space. So whatever you think about this stuff, like to me, this is a cylindrical blimp. That's not a missile. I believe it's helium. It's all theater. So here it is, quote unquote, live. Like, I just don't believe that this is real. I think it's a blimp. But let's show you. Look how slow it moves. Like, this looks like special effects out of Power Rangers, just to my eyes. So now, once it gets out of sight, out of mind, they cut to this feed here. So this is all you get. So here we are at 41 minutes and 9 seconds into the launch. And on the top right, and this is how I know it's not a compression error, underneath, when you have this angle, there's this bar here. It comes out from underneath this bar and it walks down the length of this thing. Chosen One says, if someone played back everything you say, would you believe that person was sane, honestly? If somebody, well, here's my question for you, Chosen One. If someone believes everything they see on TV, or if somebody believes everything they hear from their Southern Baptist preacher, are they sane? Is the religious fundamentalist insane? Or are they sane? Is the Scientology cult member 33rd degree operating Thetan sane? You know, you're talking about sanity. I don't think you know what you're talking about as far as a medical diagnosis. And if you think that the definition of sanity is being an A+ student and not getting any wrong answers, you're also kind of wrong. There's a difference between a thought disorder or being insane and disagreeing politically. You know, there are people on the right who believe that you're insane if you believe in climate change. There are people on the left who believe in climate change who think if you believe in the wrath of God, you're insane. So I don't think you actually know what you're talking about, but you're welcome to call in at 505-510-4226 and explain to me your definition of sanity. Because I would argue that you're probably insane. And you have no idea how insane you actually are. And by insane, I mean, my definition is you probably have a more faith-based, dogmatic worldview than logical or rational. And I'm on the side of logic and reason. I'm not going to blow myself up a la Akbar style. I don't attack people who don't agree with me because I'm not threatened by what goes on in other people's minds. Pippi Langstruff says all the bubbles in space are mouse flatulence. Yeah, it could be. Bubbles in space. Okay, look, bubbles in space is another issue. It has to do with spacewalks. Anyway, look, we're at 41 minutes and 41 seconds into the CRS-19 launch. It's not doctored. 42:25. There I see the mouse's head. You see the cursor on the right? We're still at 42 minutes and 30 seconds in, and he's about to make his appearance. Now's your cue. You know who makes arguments like that? Bill Nye the Science Guy. He says if you don't believe in climate change, you have cognitive dissonance. You have a psychological delusion. Look, there it is. And here's something else too. If we're looking at a faked event, or if they're faking space travel, they're going to have everything in there they need to have. So their explanation that it's ice makes sense with their frame of reference. It is the best explanation that we have. My question is, how come those people who are being confronted with this mouse aren't talking about what a great miracle it is? Like, isn't it? Maybe they don't appreciate art. Maybe that's what it is. But I've always liked ice sculptures. And if somebody showed me, hey, look, I've got an ice sculpture in the shape of a mouse at Mach 8 in outer space, you're going to love it. I'd be like, yeah, put this on the front page. NASA should be getting behind this and saying, hey, look at this strange anomaly. Every time they find an asteroid shaped like a common household object, it's front page news. Oh, look, it's Halloween and we found an asteroid in the shape of a skull. It's Christmas, we found an asteroid in the shape of a snowman. Hey, you see that heart-shaped asteroid? Yeah, that might actually kill us on Valentine's Day. They do this all the time. So what I'm wondering here is, why isn't this being recognized as a miracle? Anyone? Who doesn't think this is a miracle? You've got frozen oxygen, you got this condensate, you got this ice on a moving rocket traveling through space at Mach 8, and the ice forms into the shape of a mouse on a mission dubbed the Mighty Mouse mission. Mighty Mouse, if you didn't know, is a mouse in space. So personally, I don't feel crazy by calling that a mouse. Anybody calling me crazy for calling this a mouse, please call in and explain to me why I'm crazy for calling something that looks, moves, and acts like a mouse and has 2 ears and has a shadow, it has a head, and it retains its structural integrity. How am I crazy for calling it a mouse? Even if 5 minutes later, you see another piece that looks like a piece of ice. Like, I'm suggesting that this was inserted into the footage. Whether it's in space or it's on the ground, the thing that's a mouse, this mouse-shaped thing, whatever it is, was intended to be a mouse. I just think it's an inside joke. Henrik says Mao took the guns, Hitler took the guns, Stalin took the guns. That's an Alex Jones-ism. Nobody's going to take your guns. Nobody. What's going to happen is the present generation are growing up under this misapprehension that school shootings are everywhere and that guns are bad, and they're just not going to want the guns. They're just conditioning people out of it. If you ever heard of Eric Holder, look into what Eric Holder said. Back in the 90s, he said, it's not enough to tell them guns are bad. We've got to brainwash them systematically every day in school, make it a part of their daily experience. And then voila, 17 years of fake school shootings where the kids do duck and cover drills, where they're taught to fear guns. They're taught to vote Democrat. I mean, that's been the whole point. Okay, anyone else? Anyone else have any comments on this thing? And as I was explaining to the pilot who called in, and so look, we have a pilot, and you can't discount this. Just because you don't agree with somebody doesn't mean you agree with them, or you don't have to make a decision right now. But we have a pilot who says that you wouldn't get a hint of a curve until you're 34,000 feet up, and that the high altitude balloon footage isn't conclusively proving flat horizon, but that's just an effect of the camera. So we're not going to know, as in we're not going to have that collectively. We're not all going to see a curved ball Earth at the same time until Mike goes up there, because we don't trust SpaceX when we see this type of, what are you going to call it? The mouse. Is it a prank? Is it a joke? Whatever it is, these shenanigans Okay, here we go. This is an interview. Mad Mike's mission to prove the flat Earth. This is with the directors of his film. If you haven't seen it yet, it's worth watching. The show's called Homemade Astronauts. I'll put a link, but if you haven't been to Mad Mike's website, I'm going to give you a link. You ought to go and sign up to the email list so you don't miss it when it goes live. Okay, I'm going to take off unless anybody here has any further comments about Mousegate. We're not going to let Mousegate go. I'm trying to find a copy of The Economist. Somebody said that The Economist had a radioactive rat on it, which might be interesting. There's always something kind of weird and like tarot card-esque about The Economist. America First King says, do these actors know they're in on it? What do you mean? Crisis actors? Yeah, obviously. Nobody knew about what crisis actors were until 2012. Heinrich says, turn this channel off. Now, Heinrich 18. If you don't agree with somebody, and you have the power to shut them off, and you do, well then what's next? Let's say we let that happen. I'm like, oh, hey, look, everybody, Heinrich's butt hurt. Heinrich's feelings are hurt. He doesn't like what I'm talking about, so let's go ahead and cut it off. Let's say we did that. Well, what happens when you say something that offends the feminists and they shut you off? Oh, I'm sorry, you're talking about Nightbot. I thought you were talking about me. Sorry about that. I'm just saying here, I may not agree with what you have to say, but I will defend your right to say it. I wish everybody could abide by that. I think a better system would have been, like with YouTube in particular, like if you don't like a video and you flag it, it's blocked for you. I think we should be able to self-censor, not censor others. And I had more than 4 dozen accounts shut down. Commenter says the ocean is flat, the earth has hills and mountains, concave is more likely. Okay, so if the earth is concave, then how come the sun doesn't rise at sunset? And how come it doesn't set at sunrise? Which it would. Yeah, phones are still open, 505-510-4226. No, that commenter wasn't saying to shut me up. He was talking about Nightbot. So it's all good. Now, here's something else you need to look at. This is from a few years ago. This is, I think, proof that the space shuttle was done with blimps. So here's what we have here. This is Bombshell. Okay, so what are you looking at here? What do your eyes tell you? I'm not even going to give you too much context. And I'm not going to have the sound on. Looking at the way that moves against the backdrop of the sky and the clouds, it reminds me of a kite. It reminds me of a hot air balloon or a blimp. And that looks like the sky above. Anyone else? P. Showman says, what's his name? Oh, you're talking about the guy who flew up in a capsule in the 50s, Auguste Piccard? No. They totally changed that in the wiki. Hey, what's up, caller?
Hey, what's up, IPS? This is Cam B.
Hey, Cam B, really quick, on the screen, what does that look like to you? Just off the top of your head, just looking at that object.
Actually, hold on. Let me take a look at that really quick. You might hear me. Hold on. Sorry about that. That looks like I don't know, cigar or a bullet type shape. I don't know.
Oh, does it look like it's floating above your head?
Look like I don't know. I mean, if you put it that way, sure, it could.
I think it's ambiguous. I think it's ambiguous because here's the thing: we're supposed to believe that we're in a space shuttle, looking down at a booster, and I think.
Oh, stop it! Stop it! Are you serious?
Yeah, and I'm saying no. This is on the ground, looking up, and that's one of the ways they've managed to fake this high altitude stuff.
Yeah, this is so. Oh my God! There's so many Hollywood camera tricks. It's ridiculous, right?
Well, what gets weird about this one And I'll go over this later in a bit if you want to go into something else, but they zoom in on it, right? And it just looks like it's a balloon. And then there's one clip in here when they cut the scene where you actually see a jet, but they whited it out. You actually see a jet fly by. And so what it looks like to me is a blimp recovery plane. And I'm putting the plane on the screen. It's kind of whited out. They try to hide it, but a plane zips by right before they
Oh,
move the camera. This was from the
yeah,
space shuttle, I mean, years ago.
yeah. That sounds about right. That's insane. And the more you look at it, though, like the more you understand that you're just being lied to. Period. And when you see like, what was it? You know what I looked at today? Don Pettit, right? I
Yeah,
don't know if you know.
yeah, Don
Okay,
Petit. Yeah, Don Petit, the guy who says that they lost the telemetry data and the technology to get to the moon. If they had it, they would go back in a nanosecond.
yeah, that guy. He might be John Lennon again.
He looks like John Lennon. I don't know. I'd have to do a check. Um, okay. When I look at Don Petit, I think okay, that's the guy they put out there to deliver the bad news because nobody's going to punch a guy with glasses that looks like Don Petit.
Right, right, right. Yeah. I mean, they get away with it every single time because, and this is what I'm trying to tell people is like, I brought up the black athlete again, right? And that's something that's been a no-no. But we know that Aisha Curry is playing the role. Oh, I'm sorry. Miley Cyrus is playing the role of Aisha Curry. Well, Miley Cyrus has a boyfriend in real life, supposedly, and that boyfriend's name is Liam Hemsworth. And man, I think it's Steph Curry.
You're okay. That's interesting. So for everyone who doesn't know here, what Camby's talking about is his contention here, because earlier we were talking about these disguises. We were talking about David Bowie's fake death. So your contention is, in addition to faking death and stuff, we have this phenomenon of celebrities playing multiple roles on the world stage. And this sounds crazy, but it's not crazy if you're just talking about actors, but they're not always acting in the movies. Sometimes they're acting for the tabloids. Like, for example, Brad Pitt, Jennifer Aniston, Angelina Jolie. That whole charade between those three over the years in the tabloids, that's all just been a made for tabloids movie. And so in the same way, we're seeing other things, and you pointed out that Miley Cyrus is playing the role of Stephen Curry's wife, which is huge if you think about it, right?
Yeah, it's and I commented on this on my last video, and I said, look, I've avoided looking at the Liam Hemsworth thing because it's dark to me, and how I feel is like, I feel like that's evil, like what they're doing, and I've really been avoiding looking at that, and I alluded to this again. If this is true, then they're doing this all over the NBA. Not only that, they're doing this all over sports, just like we have one of the Jonas brothers playing the role of the race car driver, Bubba Wallace, I believe. So it goes back to my video about Kobe Bryant and Matthias, the Italian actor.
Right.
I think that, and I'm willing to say this right now. I just feel like there's something to it. And that's what they don't want us knowing about. So I don't know what your thoughts are on that.
Well, for me, this is not all that controversial because once I discovered the existence of actors being used in propaganda films to influence the public mind, it logically follows that they're not just going to be faking or staging terror attacks and school shootings and lying about the climate, but all over the place they're going to have these agents. And so, yeah, we're finding, and it's not just blackface, but yeah, a lot of these celebrities are playing across racial boundaries, gender boundaries, multiple roles, and it's all on the world stage. And this is what the masses don't get. The movies on the screen distract you from the movies, or rather the presentation or the theater that they give you. In other words, there's the reality, and there's a televised reality. And most of the people that we see in the televised reality that are celebrities are scripted actors all the time.
No, I would say about what we see on television, man, damn. I mean, I want to say about 95% of them they're here to push an agenda on us. Do you know what I mean?
Yes, in fact, this is where I started my study on this matter. Was after I looked into the Nipsey Hussle death thing. I got into Tupac hoax revealed, which you know the case behind that one. But
yeah.
In their research, and they drew heavily from Miles Mathis, they talked about weaponized anthropology and the use of like spies or agents, where you have a spy from a foreign country blending in for purposes of influence, intel, and everything else. And so what we're looking at here is that our entire televised reality is comprised of agents that serve this centralized power, whatever you want to call it. But there's no difference, there's no distinction really in my mind to be making between the news media, the political drama, and the celebrity drama. This is why all A-listers take certain positions politically. You will not find an A-lister who doesn't believe in climate change, and that's...
No, you will not. You will not. And let me ask you something. Did you check TMZ today?
No, what's on TMZ today? Was it the one about Justin Bieber or?
Yeah. Justin Bieber has Lyme disease.
Yeah, I did see that. Now that one's a fascinating case too. Earlier today, actually, and people will not believe this, and I'm gonna have to do a whole nother video on this topic.
Yeah, that's fine. Please.
We were digging into this Justin Bieber thing. I mean, did you see earlier? You'll appreciate this on how Adam Sandler's having this art show in New York where he has the Weeknd's
the wig, right?
Yeah, the Weeknd's wig on display. I mean, so here it goes. Where they have his wig on display.
Yeah.
This is 2002. Like, these are just jokes to me. These are definitely inside jokes. But I thought you might appreciate that. But we're looking into this, and it's...
Yeah.
Look,
go ahead. I'm sorry.
So we're not dealing with anomalies. Like, whenever we talk about these high-profile death fakers like Tupac or Bowie, we're not talking about some sneaky guy who did something. We're talking about they all share the same backstage. Adam Sandler has got to be on the know about this stuff, all this stuff, for example.
Yeah. Oh, and his new movie, and that just shows you like how ridiculous this really is. But to have the Weeknd's hair being auctioned off, I don't even understand the story really, but it's a nod to us. That is actually them acknowledging us right now and what we're doing. And so Fearless TV, I was just talking to him, man. I had a really good conversation with my boy. So if you're listening, hey, I appreciate that. He was telling me everything about this whole Akil thing, right? And I don't know, have you seen his latest video on it?
I haven't seen it. What's he come up with?
So he shows, just showing how Biggie is playing the role, or, the new Biggie basically is Soup. He shows the moles, and I can't even explain to anybody who's just listening to this for the first time. He breaks it down to where it's undeniable. It is absolutely the same person playing the role.
Okay, the moles. Now this is something. So this morning we were looking at this Weeknd Justin Bieber thing, kind of joking about it because Justin Bieber was live this morning, and I actually went on his Instagram and I said, "The Weeknd is Justin Bieber in a silicone mask," and I posted it several times on there because that's why I brought it up. And in the Discord server, all kinds of people were dropping off pictures of the two. And what gets me, and I might just have to open up my Discord server and post some of these pictures on the screen.
Yeah, but please.
Okay, so let's look at this for example. So Justin Bieber's wife, Hailey Bieber, was part of a little controversy last year where she put on some type of suntan lotion that turned her body so dark that they accused her of doing blackface. And this would be Hailey Bieber, right?
Yep.
And so, anyway, I looked into this. Here's a picture of her. So this is Hailey Bieber with this like very, very, very dark lotion on her body that really, got her a lot of criticism. So when I saw that, I thought, okay, that's interesting. And then you brought it up and you said you need to compare Justin Bieber's girlfriend, Hailey Bieber, to The Weeknd's girlfriend. So I looked at The Weeknd's girlfriend. I don't know her name. I just searched Weeknd's girlfriend. I don't know if they're still together. I don't follow it like that. But I'm looking at The Weeknd's girl, and it does look like Justin's girlfriend wearing some of that magic suntan lotion. Sometimes she doesn't, but they barely even disguised her. So I'm like,
wait. IPS. Let me ask you something. So you know that video of her, Ayesha Curry on Jimmy Kimmel?
Yeah, the one where she has her wrists covered.
Did you see how dark she was on that show?
I'm gonna have to look at it again. And that was on on what show again?
Listen, that was on Jimmy Kimmel show where she had her knuckles covered up.
Yeah, she had her knuckles covered up, which is funny because I was looking at how they made is like the behind the scenes on the Avengers where they showed Thor in a fat suit, and they showed how the fat suit ends at your wrist. So they put these gloves on, and so they can even cover up the hands. And so then we're looking into this, and yeah, sure enough, when she makes her public appearances, more often than not, she has her wrists covered up, and then she has a hole punched in her sleeves, for her thumbs. Like
who wears that kind of? Come on, who? Just be honest with yourself. Who wears that shit?
People wearing fat suits. People wearing fat suits.
Yeah, but I just wanted you guys to like take a notice of it. She was dark as fuck on that show. That was on purpose because that was one of the first times they brought her out to like the main, the world stage. They wanted to make sure she was dark and that she was black. And if you look at her today, they've kind of laxed up on that. She's white.
Yeah,
Ayesha Curry.
Yeah,
Ayesha Curry is what I'm getting at.
Right. Well, look, again, this isn't all that far-fetched. See, we're not talking about MK Ultra. We're not talking about clones or reptilians or shapeshifters. We're talking about a well-known, established program of highly sophisticated, foolproof disguises being used by all the intelligence agencies, and we're suggesting that these are also being used in the media, which are also controlled. Like the media is controlled by the same intelligence agencies that control the mainstream news and everything else. I mean, I'm just looking at this as an extension of what we're already used to, and this is just another part of the game.
Yeah. So as far as and you said you were commenting on Justin Bieber's life. Well, I talked to Fearless, and he was saying that he actually commented, like he has a burner account too, and he was commenting on Justin Bieber's live, the same one, I believe the one that you were on. I'm not sure. But he said as soon as he said you're The Weeknd, Justin Bieber ended the live immediately.
Funny. Well, we've been following this for a while. Like there was this one day where The Weeknd tweeted this golden sculpture that looked like Justin Bieber.
Yeah,
and that same day, Justin Bieber tweeted a picture of himself in blackface, like scribbled with MS Paint with a beard.
With a mustache. A mustache.
Now listen really quick here. I got a commenter. His name's Tony Montana, who I think is lying, but he says,
that sounds like a liar.
He says, my professor plays these videos during class to talk about mental health. I'm going to have to say you're lying because mental health professionals don't treat the mentally ill like deviants who need to be ridiculed. They treat them with compassion. So if this person really cared about, they'd call me up and they'd say, hey, can we get you offline? And I'm really afraid for you. Are you a threat to yourself? They would be really compassionate. They wouldn't say, oh, you've got wrong think. Let's lock you up. Let's medicate you. I mean, I see a lot of hostility. And I don't like the rhetoric here because for the last year, they've been ramping up the idea that the mentally ill are dangerous and that they're the ones shooting up all the places. And I'm like, well, no, those are all actors.
Whoa. Before you even proceed, so when I called into this channel, this Hood Talk News channel, this YouTube channel, let me tell you, this is like a channel, prescribed for like black people, and they talk about Nipsey Hussle really died, of course, and we should all feel sorry, and Lauren London is grieving right now. They're going with the mainstream. I truth bombed that channel, and I called in, and at the end of the day, this guy hung up on me, and told me that I was the next school shooter. Told his entire audience that, and I said, "Wow, we're touching something here."
Well, I remember I think it was after the Parkland shooting, there was one of these teleprompter readers had said that all these people calling these events hoaxes and saying these are crisis actors, those people need to be watched because they're going to be the ones to shoot up the next school. And that makes no sense. The people who say that the shootings are fake are going to what? Oh, we're so mad that these things are fake. We need a real one. That doesn't make any sense at all.
You know, I mean, this is it's getting insane. And, God, I just don't know, where else to go from here. But yeah, as soon as Fearless, I was gonna finish. Like as soon as he talked about that to Justin Bieber's live, he ended it, and it just reminds me so much of what else we see, the Kill DMC, and he's ending everything that has to do with Tupac. What does this tell you guys?
Well, here's the picture for you. Okay, I'm looking at a photo now of Ayesha Curry, Stephen Curry, and Barack Obama. And one thing I've noticed too is that many of these deep fakers, these apparent deep fakers, they're all they share the same backstage. Like they're all in the know. You can see the duper's delight all over their faces.
Correct. And so what I wanted to say was, okay, so I've been saying that Liam Hemsworth, Miley Cyrus's boyfriend, is playing the role of Steph Curry. I don't know if this is to be true or not, but I've been encountering a lot of fishy things with this, and I alluded to a video. So there's a video that I saw of Steph Curry when he was young, supposedly, right? When he was 11 or 12 years old, maybe in the early 2000s. And anybody that follows sports or plays basketball like I have, you're going to notice something. When they're showing Steph Curry as a kid shooting three-pointers, they digitally imposed the sound. Oh, God. They digitally imposed the sound of a ball going through the net like he's making the three-pointers as a little kid. In real life, he wasn't making those. Why would they have to go in and digitally impose that? I think that's because they're trying to program you. And they're letting you know that this little phenom is hitting threes at the age of 11 years old. But he's really not. And then if you actually go and watch him playing basketball, they show clips of him playing against his brother, supposedly. He's missing every layup. Like, he can't even play basketball. But he's out there draining three-pointers.
Well, this brings up a good point. We're dealing with characters that are created years in advance.
Yeah. Yes. And they did it with The Weeknd, okay, you guys? So that's the thing. You have to understand. With Justin Bieber, they put him in blackface makeup as a child, as The Weeknd. These are scripted characters. Just like they did Obama when he played the role of Epstein in 92 in that footage of Epstein and Trump together in 92. That was Obama. Look at the body.
That's okay. This is
wearing
funny.
A mask.
This is where you started. The first time you called in, you brought this up, and this was about the time I started looking into Jonah Mendez. And so this is the funniest thing to me, is that whenever you get into new territory, people want to call you crazy. I had some guy who said that I don't deserve any compassion. I got people who basically want me dead because of my opinions or whatever. And I'm like, these aren't opinions. I'm making observations. And, and what we're observing here is that, yes, there are, in fact, technologies that are being used that you've only seen in some high-budget Hollywood films, that they can give a person a new body, like a bodysuit, not just a fat suit, but muscle. They can add on the face, they can add on the chin, and we're not talking about cosmetic surgery. We're talking about hyper-realistic silicone masks that are 100% foolproof, combined with the skills of an actor. And of course, what we're looking at here is this area where entertainment celebrities, pop stars, and politicians are all part of this or using the same technology.
Yes. Yeah. That's exactly what's going on right now. And it's very easy to see once you see it, you know. And they're gonna call you crazy. They're gonna call you, you know, you're gonna get called every name in the book. But you guys don't be scared. This is like the fringe territory that we're not supposed to be walking on, and this is it. They are absolutely putting on masks and deceiving us. I mean, it doesn't stop. Every aspect of your life, I think, in my opinion, at this point, is being controlled by actors with a script. And what does that tell you? There's an agenda being pushed on you every single day. Look at politics, look at sports, look at art, you know, rap, country music. You know, I'll say this. There was a footage, I don't know, IPS, do you remember this, of Joan Rivers? Do you remember this person?
Joan Rivers, a comedian?
Yes.
The last thing I remember her, she put out a book, which was kind of funny. I remember I read part of it, and this is what they always do, death fakers, right before they die, they put out a book. And she said, she said that Obama was gay, Michelle was a tranny, and then she dies.
Yeah. Okay. So, Joan Rivers, she spoke some truth before she died, supposedly. I think that, like, maybe that was her thing. She just got it out there. There was this footage floating around of supposedly a woman that looked like Joan Rivers with short hair out to dinner with Clyde Davis. Do you remember this?
I've seen it, and it looked like her without her makeup on.
Oh, okay. Now, when I saw that, when I was like first waking up to this, I looked at that and I was like, you know what? Damn, that looks like Joan Rivers. I think that is her. And then there were debunking videos that came out and said that, no, it was another actress, right? That looks like Joan Rivers, but that wasn't Joan Rivers, right? And when I looked into it, I said, damn, yes, this actress is the other lady. I was like, there's no way that could have been Joan Rivers. I was tripping. But when I think about it again, I was wrong, and I fell for it, okay? That debunking video came out to tell you, no, that's not Joan Rivers. But I'm here to tell you that that was Joan Rivers. Joan Rivers actually played another actress, another role on the world stage. I forget the name of her right now, but she was playing the role of that person to throw you off. And Joan Rivers, as a person that we saw, that was a mask. And the real person that we saw that played the role of Joan Rivers was with Clyde Davis that night. Okay?
Very, very interesting. Very interesting.
Yeah,
Look, we're not saying people don't die, but what we're talking about here is that many of these high-profile celebrity deaths, especially if they're politicized, they have an agenda, the character is being introduced artificially into the world stage. It's a construct. And when they remove them in highly scripted and staged fake ways. What brought me into a lot of this stuff was the 27 Club. And then you look at the Die Young Club with Roddy Ricch, Nipsey Hussle, and all the people that are tied into that one. And you find so many examples of these very curious, enigmatic, provable death hoaxes. And now we're just figuring out how they all connect.
Yeah. I mean, and it's all falling together, you guys. While I'm here tonight, man, I just want to get as much out as I can. So there's another person. Okay, Mac Miller. You're familiar with him, right?
Yeah, and really quick, let me bring this up. I'm convinced now that this thing about the masks, like, this is not far-fetched. We're not talking about reptilians. We're not talking about clones. Okay, we're talking about a technology that it was classified, according to Jonah Mendez, up until 2016. It was classified information. And I think that Stanley Kubrick hinted at it in Eyes Wide Shut, that the people that truly control this place, the ones that are ruling us, they're in our faces, but we never see them because we can't see through their masks, and we wouldn't even know.
Oh, okay. IPS. I'm going to interrupt you. So, a lot of people that I know, and I actually started with this, was I'm sure you're aware of Zachary K. Hubbard, correct?
Yes, I know who Zach Hubbard is.
Okay. I'm just trying to get this out here. So I think, man, Zachary K. Hubbard is there. He's a plant, just like Crow 777. And I think that he is put out there so that, you know, people waking up, they're going to look at these numbers and numerology and try to, to me, it's the same as the transvestigations, like Mag, Better Truth. This will keep you chasing your tail with numbers. And what Zach will not tell you is that they're wearing masks. And that's troubling to me.
Yeah, that's a good point. Okay, you're right about this. So we've noticed, like, I can point to patterns. Like, especially in 2019, I have a book out called Metascript. And this book, and it's not that long, but it shows you, beyond any doubt, whatever you think about what it means, it is a 100% provable fact that there is some type of metascripting that encompasses the pop culture, the movies, and the major news events. And it's revealed in the symbolism, numerology, and subtext. And it's connected to the timing of the seasons, and we've connected this. It's not that much of a stretch. And so what I'm saying here is that just as our holidays reflect the movements of the sun, many news events seem to be timed in the same way, and the numerology is there, the pattern is there. But when you call out these patterns, they're going to say you're crazy. But if you can prove the patterns there, you're not crazy, and I can prove it. But then you get somebody like Zachary Hubbard who will point out the pattern, and then he'll throw in a bunch of stuff. He'll say, well, this number means that, therefore, it's the devil. And I'm like, no, It doesn't mean that. It just means this is obviously scripted in some way, but it doesn't mean that.
No, well, and he's also a ball earther, okay? So we know that. And then he also, in my opinion, he makes you think that, like, there's a possibility that these people are actually being killed off.
Boom. That right there, totally discrediting. Anybody pushing false flag theory is pushing a CIA-planted storyline that's meant to guardrail you and keep you going back to the mainstream. They don't want you to call out the fake. They want you to say, no, they're actually killing people and it's a satanic ritual. They don't want you to know it's fake.
Yes, he wants to keep it a Masonic ritual. And also, it's funny. I saw that you get notified when anyone subscribes to you, correct? On your Gmail?
Yes.
Okay. So I've noticed this. Zachary K. Hubbard subscribed to me about a month ago, maybe 2 months ago. Okay. And I'll look at it now. I've left him numerous comments. He knows who I am, and he will not respond to me, period. He won't do it. And I've said, he even covered Justin Bieber and the Lyme disease thing on TMZ today, and he didn't respond.
Yeah, TFR is all controlled. And really quick, I got a commenter in here who says that Brenton Tarrant was a real false flag. I want to point out to you that no, it wasn't. If you look at the second video of the New Zealand event, you see crisis actors getting up after they supposedly die, and you see a guy walking around with a Windex bottle full of fake blood. Anybody who can't call out the hoaxes, who instead cover it up with a story about how it was actually a false flag, they're usually government agents, or they're just dupes at this point.
Yeah, I mean, clearly. And you know what? And a lot of things equate back to, oh God. So a lot of things equate back to, like, you know how they want to tell us there's so many people on this planet? Planet in parentheses. But I don't think there's that many people. And they want us to make us feel like, okay, like they have, there's no way they could keep our eye on us, right? There's too many of us. But what this has all shown me is that I think that the population is a lot less than what they're telling us, and they certainly do have their eyes on us. They have the time for it.
Yeah, I've heard this before, because I remember back in the 60s, there's this idea of the population boom. We're going to overpopulate, and they're always hyping up the numbers. Well, the same people who exaggerate the population or who would have a vested interest in it are the same people who are saying that the climate is heating up. Hey, really quick, a commenter says, was the Vegas shooter a false flag? No, it was totally staged, totally a hoax. Nobody was shot. We have footage of the guy up on the 32nd floor. No muzzle flash. Nobody died or cried. That one was.
The Vegas shooting. Yeah, let me add to that. So I don't know if this went through, or I don't know if it was on your channel or not, but like I actually talked to one of my friends, a personal friend of mine, who experienced the Vegas shooting firsthand. I don't know. Do you remember the story about that I told you?
No, what did he say about it?
So it was a female, but she was telling me that so there was an event that happened that night, and she was actually at the concert that night as a regular concert goer. Okay, and she said something happened. They ran to the nearest hotel lobby they could find. They were in there, and they were approached with affidavits and non-disclosures, being paid $2,500 on the spot, or $3,000 on the spot, not to talk to the mainstream media about what happened, and basically to keep a tight lip. And they had Subway sandwiches and waters ready to go for them in the lobbies.
Yeah, that's always the case at all the events, and maybe it's just because of like OSHA standards. They've always got water bottles, lanyards, and sandwiches. You know, at the shooting in El Paso at the Walmart this summer, they had the cops were passing out cherry Cokes and they were barbecuing while the shooter was still being caught.
Oh, nice. Okay, so I mean that should tell you something. You guys, everything that we're being witness to right now is scripted. Everything. If Andrew Yang, our next Democratic, candidate for president, the Asian guy, Andrew Yang, is Joe Rogan in a mask, wake up. Walk away from all of this. Walk away from it. That's all I can say. Like, this should have no bearing on your life. They're hiding something from us.
Yeah, and look, anybody here who thinks that people died in Vegas, the media lied, people were paid off, and what's more, 50 of the people who were shot at again 13 months later, while there was a drill next door. About 50 people getting shot. Like, no, we've deconstructed this stuff ad nauseum. Anybody pushing false flag is a liar, and the truth is this, what you're getting at here. The deep fake technology that you hear about is not about the future use of video manipulation. It's about what has already been done. We've already been deepfaked. The movie They Live explains it. And yeah, there are very few of us, I think, right now, compared to the rest of the population, who are aware of these technologies and how they're being used. The movie They Live explains it. And you might be right. It may be the case that the people who see through it are surveilled or noted somehow, but we're certainly not being silenced.
Well, no, because you know why? I'm going to tell you guys this. This is a consent-driven reality that we live in. Okay? They need your consent. That's why they're deceiving you. They're deceiving you because they need to make sure it's okay with you to be deceived. That's what I've really gotten from this, is that they want your approval. Okay? So there's a reason we're being distracted. There's a reason why they're putting our face like this, but they want your consent. This goes through everything. Law, being pulled over by the police, right? Getting a traffic ticket, paying your taxes. This is all consent driven. When you're owed IRS on your taxes, it says at the bottom of it, it says, if you agree, please respond with payment, right? Well, what if you don't agree? Because it's illegal to be taxed, okay? So what I'm getting at is, this is all of it is scripted. And lastly, what I'm going to close up with real quick, man, is did you see the latest Epstein crime footage?
I did. I saw that, and it didn't match up with what we saw before. It looked like the intubator, the tube that they put in his mouth, it looked like that was a digital insert. We didn't see it with the first collection of photos they gave us.
No. And his feet were super skinny, like Barack Obama's feet. So I just want you guys to pay attention to that. That is Barack Obama playing the role of Epstein. They probably used a dummy, body for the photo op. But it was all bullshit. They put orange all over it with their 33 number. They love that. So if you look at the crime scene footage, there's a bunch of orange color that they get off on it.
Okay, let me
That's
give everybody your channel. People want to know what you're talking about, where you're coming from with this. Your channel, your Cambee, Cambee, and
yep.
yeah. So one of your contentions here is that this reality is extremely scripted, and not only is it scripted, but many of the major players are involved in high-tech, high-level disguises where they get away with, well, they actually have multiple performances at the same time, sometimes multiple characters in a lifetime, fake deaths and everything. But yeah, it can all be explained with stagecraft.
All of it can be. And for those of you that were interested in this, Mac Miller was like a really high profile rapper that died, a white guy. He is going by the name of J.D. Gotti, Daigotti. That is Mac Miller. He's wearing a mask and prosthetics. So I know that a lot of my viewers are like interested in that. So, but yeah, IPS. I don't know, man. What else do you have to cover tonight, man? Like, yeah, you know, I got a little time tonight, man. Like, what else you got? What else is on your mind?
Well, the last thing we've been covering is this Mousegate thing. The fact that we see what appears to be a mouse on a rocket is problematic, and so to me, it either means it's being faked on Earth and there's a mouse infestation in the studio, or they inserted the mouse intentionally. And if that's the case, which I think, it's because it's some type of elitist joke that on the Mighty Mouse mission they have a mouse on the outside of the rocket. What are your thoughts on that? Do you think that they're that arrogant that they would play a joke on that level?
I think that they are that arrogant. Yes, I think that there's something going on with that. I looked at it, and it looks too much like a mouse to be an actual mouse. Do you know what I mean?
Oh yeah, to me it looks like a cartoon mouse, and I'm just questioning: is somebody gonna get fired for it, or is Musk some type of eccentric who asked for it?
Yeah, I think that was more of like, okay, we're sending Mighty Mice up to space, and that was like their little like joke about it to the insiders. We're not supposed to know that joke, though. Do you know what I mean?
Exactly. That's kind of what I thought. I figured that Musk and his friends are taking acid and Ambien, laughing at our expense. I kind of think that's the real thing that happened here, and that we weren't really meant to see this. This little inside joke wasn't meant for us.
That was not meant for us. And the ones that can see, we're left out here all alone. Like, fuck, what do we do with this? This is actual evidence. But what can you do? Because if you go to a judge, that judge might be played by actor Terry Crews, who's playing the role of Judge Gino Brogdon.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Do you see what I mean? Like, do you see what where I'm going?
Yeah, the way I look at it, I make a separation here. I think what we're doing here is it's like critical theory, where we're actually looking at the mediated worldview as a separate construct from reality, and you're not going to change it from within. That's why I'm not taking sides. I'm not voting. I'm on the outside analyzing the mediated reality because I know that from within it's all fabrication.
All of it is. And did you see the? By the way, did you see? Speaking of Elon, did you see the Tesla truck?
The Tesla truck, the one that looks like the one out of Blade Runner, or the pickup
Yeah,
truck? Okay.
yeah. You know what I'm talking about, right? The electric Tesla truck, right? The new one.
Yep.
Did you see when they threw a rock at the so-called bulletproof glass?
It shattered. That shattered, which I thought, okay, are they bringing Musk down a few notches? And then he's in China yesterday, dancing a little striptease on stage. Like, there's something goofy about this whole situation. I don't know if is that a joke on us? Like, hey, here's an indestructible tank. By the way, we're on Mars. And then
I think the whole truck. Listen, I think the whole truck is CGI. I'm also going to say this. I think that whole little goof off, whatever that was, when they threw the rock at the glass twice and it broke twice, that was CGI'd in it as well.
Interesting. Well, look, we're looking at wizardry. We're looking at stage. Like I don't believe that we landed on the moon. I think that it was movie magic that accomplished it. And this movie magic that we're seeing, It's definitely there's a hint of mockery here because it's so in our faces. But so I can't put it past them to insert a mouse in here, knowing that there's nothing we can do about it, and that you can go to the experts, and I have people like Mick West, and they said, nope, that's ice.
Right. Yeah. So I'm gonna get out of here, IPS. Okay, I want some other people to call in. I know it's been a while, but before I go, I want Lickety Split, or excuse me, not Lickety Split, to hit me up ASAP. Okay. I know you're listening, so hit me up, bruh.
Okay, very good. And everybody subscribe to Cam B. Go ahead and drop your channel in the chat. I think someone else already has, but
Yeah. For sure.
Even if they think you sound crazy. So hey, I appreciate the call, man. Have a great night. Infinite Plane Radio. Hey, what's up, caller? Go ahead and mute your speaker.
Hey, IPS, can you hear me okay?
Hey, what's up, Tim Truth?
Hey, how's it going? I was really enjoying that call from Cam B. You guys brought up some good points, and I just wanted to comment on some of this stuff.
Yeah, by all means, go for it.
So I think you showed some interesting stills from that Stanley Kubrick film, Eyes Wide Shut. And I was noticing for the first time that some of those masks actually looked like real faces. And they're not just masquerade masks. So I think you're right about that being more telling than maybe that was why he was killed, for instance. So one thing I noticed that I wanted to bring to your attention, and I'll put a link in the chat. You know that guy Sacha Baron Cohen, right?
Borat.
His new show, Borat. His new show, Who Is America? He has some characters that really don't look like him at all, and I think that they were using like fake noses, masks, maybe just makeup. But I'd be interested if you pull it up because I used to be a fan of like the Ali G show. I thought it was really funny. Now I see that it's just propaganda in order to get people to laugh at the truth and laugh at like cultural values that we should hold on to. And he's basically going around talking to politicians, getting them to say stupid things, especially about like gun rights and stuff. But there's this one character he does, forgot the name of it. If you scroll down, he's wearing like a black shirt with a black background. He's got really like a square jaw. He doesn't look like Sacha Cohen at all. And I wanted to ask if you thought that was a mask.
Okay, let me take a look because this is exactly what we've been talking about. This level of spycraft. He's definitely a deep faker. Okay, so this is him right here. Wow.
Yep. And then the photo under him too. Check that one out.
Okay, let's take a look. This is really interesting. So this is what we're talking about. So if you didn't tell everybody, hey, this is Sacha Baron Cohen, and so if you didn't tell anybody that would not have been their immediate response. Like they would not have said, yeah, that's him. And
yeah, it doesn't look like him at all. And I know his face pretty well. And there's even one other picture. I think it's loading slow on your page, but like when you look directly at him, and there's even like B-roll footage of him like walking down the street with like really wide arms, doing like a ridiculous walk. And he just like, I don't know how they accomplished it other than with mask technology.
Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and bring it back up. I was on Mirror, and you know how Mirror is with ads, and so they're kind of slow.
Yeah.
But yeah, let me look at the second picture because this is exactly what we're talking about. I always point people over to Nicole Kidman when she played one of her characters where she wore a prosthetic
Virginia
nose.
Woolf, right?
Yeah, the Virginia Woolf character was nothing more than just a prosthetic nose. And that prosthetic nose changed her entire face. Okay, this is the front view. Okay, look at that. Interesting.
Yeah, can you see it? I don't see it on the D live stream yet, but I'll put the link just to the image in the chat if it helps. But there's a couple of, oh, there you go, you got it. I mean, it doesn't look like him at all. I mean, the whole jawline has changed.
Yeah, this is why when people say, well, The Weeknd doesn't look like Justin Bieber. Well, yeah, he does. Quite close, actually. It's funny. But they say that, and it's like, well, obviously. If you're dealing with disguise, it's supposed to give you the immediate reaction, not the person. You know, it's supposed to throw you off. This is fascinating.
Yeah, and if you scroll through that, the rest of that article, he has some other characters. Like there's one guy who's like got this blonde hair and blonde eyebrows, which comes to mind when you bring up that they try to reverse the characteristics somebody sees when they look at the actual person in the pseudo person. But I just wanted to bring that to your attention because this is one where they admit that it's actually a person playing a character and they don't look anything alike. I did research and I was trying to find the transformation process or any talks of mask technology and how they accomplish this. I mean, there's definitely a fake nose involved, but I think that it's like a mask too, and it's just...
Okay, wait a minute. This is good. This is really good. So this guy, he's playing the role of Billy Wayne Ruddick, which again, this to me is really... It's essentially the same as a form of blackface, and they can get away with it. You know, they can say, oh, if you're white, you can't have a bowl cut because that's hate. Whereas they can dress in offensive racial stereotypes all the time. But he's holding up a picture here of Barack Obama dressed up as Osama bin Laden, which is hilarious.
Right. But they're trying to make it look like that's a taboo thing, and they're trying to get somebody to say something stupid about it. It's all mockery to make it so that people who, I don't know, it's very in-depth brain control. You know, comedy is a great way to get people into line because nobody wants to be ridiculed. And this teaches people what to ridicule and what to not do if you don't want to be ridiculed. So,
oh yeah, no doubt. The government jesters, they call themselves comedians, but they're really just the arbiters of political correctness. The show Politically Incorrect, Bill Maher,
exactly,
is just there to show you what can you laugh at.
And yeah, I want to make this a brief call. I just wanted to chime in on a few topics, but I do want to mention one thing.
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh yeah, sorry, you cut out for a second there. I didn't mean to cut you off. But yeah, Bill Maher came to my mind too. I used to watch him when I was a kid. I used to be so indoctrinated. I think I took on so much of their programming that I saw the pattern after a while. But it's pretty bad.
Well, look, this is what I was going to say. The night before the Walmart shooting that I referenced earlier, Bill Maher got a big laugh out of the audience when some guy booed him for ridiculing Trump. And he said, hey, security, there's a Trump voter. Make sure he doesn't have a gun. They put that in the comedy show Politically Incorrect the night before the shooting in Walmart. So yeah, these government jesters, you know, they're all just, like I said, arbiters of political correctness. But go on.
Yeah, it sounds a lot like the SNL opening that one night at the Trump rally with the woman with the gun and talking about Beyonce being played by a lifetime actor. They just love to get out in front of these stories. And like, remember Trudeau with the blackface scandal that came out right when people were realizing that The Weeknd might be a false persona of Bieber.
Oh yeah, even more recently, we started beating the drums about Cyrus and Curry. And on Instagram, a story went viral where Stephen Curry and Ayesha Curry said, hey, somebody's deep faking us. If you see our heads on somebody else's body, it's not us. So I'm like, what? Wait. These people are saying we're being deep faked. And now if you search for them and you search the term deep fake, you find that story, not those of us who are suggesting what we're suggesting. So they bury stuff quite easily.
Yeah, they sure do. That's their job, damage control and propaganda. I wanted to bring up one more topic. Well, first off, let me say you're killing it on D Live. I think you're like #1 on the platform or #2. So congrats on that. Also, I wanted just to bring up something that Cam B said that I keep hearing people say that I don't agree with. I used to maybe agree with it, but I don't think it's really the case. He said that they need consent in order to screw us over. And I don't think that's the case. I mean, I think it helps if they have their illusion, do the heavy lifting, and have people go along willingly with their program. But I really don't believe that. It also goes in line with people that say they have to reveal their method. They have to tell people what they're doing because that's their morality, their code of ethics. I don't think that's the case. I think when we see them telling us what they're doing, a lot of times it's what we were just talking about. It's so that they train people to mock it, or that they have to address it and come up with a spin for damage control reasons. But I don't think that these evil people are like, well, you know, we're going to do some really evil things, but let's make sure, you know, we got to make sure that we tell them about it. We have to make sure we get their consent, or else we're going to hell. Personally, I think that this whole talk of karma, you know, cosmic justice, and heaven and hell, you know, good people go to heaven, bad people go to hell. judge not lest you be judged yourself. God will sort this out. The universe will sort this out. Don't actually take care of your problems yourself. I think this is all implanted into us by the masters to prevent us from trying to change things ourselves.
Yeah, I think you're right about that. You get a metaphysical explanation, and now you're no longer responsible for anything or obligated to do anything. This was my main criticism of the Mandela effect when I was mostly interested in deconstructing the propaganda, which means you take the media's version of things and you compare it to objective reality. And when we differ from objective reality, I think that's when we go into deception. Like basically the mainstream mediated worldview does represent a form of fundamentalist religious mind control. So that was my point of view. And then I see the Mandela effect, people saying, well, everything's always changing or reality's always shifting. And I'm like, no, you can't have a shifting reality and an objective one. You know, we're either on the side of truth and objective reality, or we're in a simulation and metaphysical explanations are fine. So yeah, I try to remove that metaphysical element as much as I can because I think it really does take the onus out of the individual perceiver to constantly filter out the lies, which is what we're always doing. Like I don't think you can be passive in this reality and not get caught up in the deception.
Exactly, and I think there is a concrete reality, and I don't mind people saying that something changed in a commercial or a movie or something if they want to like make the case that they're just messing with our minds or the CIA mission to do what you just said, discredit certain people. But when they leave it up like this ambiguous thing, they're like, I don't know, it could be a simulation or maybe they're messing with us. I don't know, it doesn't do it for me at all. And I don't really tune into that topic too much, to be honest. I kind of find it repulsive or not attractive, maybe I should say.
Well,
but,
look, when I looked into this Mirageman thing and I saw how much the intelligence services are trying to influence conspiracy theories to throw people off of the objective reality, that's kind of where I'm at with all this stuff. I'm like, let's just focus on the facts, objective reality, and not get caught up in reptilian, shapeshifters, clones, and other things that are more metaphysical or occult. You know, we're trying to be really, I think, truthful here, which is objective reality.
Absolutely, that's what I'm trying to do, and I always love tuning into your show here. And I got your painting the other day. Thanks for sending that over. That was the Greta as Joker with the Joker face paint. That's a classic. So thanks for sending that and letting me buy that.
Yeah, thanks for supporting that. And all the people who bought art that month. I mean, I had a tough month, and it actually kept me online. So if people don't know, between Restream, SoundCloud, website, web, and just the internet, it's going to cost $200 or $300 a month just to run a decent YouTube channel or any channel. There's an investment in time and everything else. So everybody who pitches in, whether at Patreon or buying the art, they're keeping this thing going. It's like gas in a car, and with YouTube having demonetized my channel, which used to earn $200 to $300 a week passive, doesn't earn that anymore. So yeah, definitely appreciate you helping to keep this thing going. And also you were huge in pushing a lot of us off of the YouTube platform onto things like DLive and Float.
Well, I'm happy to help out, and you're exactly right. People need to support what they like, or it's going to disappear, and it's going to be some dark dystopian nightmare. Well, more so than it already is. So I'm happy to chip in the little I have. I really owe you a lot more for the entertainment and the insights and all these revelations you've given me over the years. So I'll get out of the way. I really appreciate you, IPS, and I'll do my best to continue supporting the channel.
Cool.
Hope everyone has a great day.
All right, thanks, Tim. Thanks a lot. Keep in touch. Everyone subscribe to Tim Truth. And Tim Truth, if you want to drop your Float link, do that as well. So that's Tim Truth. And we ought to keep our eye on January the 13th because we've been looking at a lot of this scripting, predictive scripting. If you don't know what that is, even if you spent 5 minutes looking into 9/11, you'll figure out what predictive scripting is, as in hints and foreshadowing in the mainstream media about upcoming events. That's what we're talking about. You see it in the movies. So for example, there was a movie called Geostorm that had fire-nados, like tornadoes of fire. And when that movie came out, Geostorm, we started seeing fire-nados in the news. And I'm like, that's not a coincidence. Yeah, this is the painting that Tim Truth bought. No, he brought the Greta Joker. He actually bought both of them. He brought the Greta this month. So let's see. I'm searching Greta Joker. I don't know if anybody else has done it yet. And I had just watched the Joker movie, and yeah, there is quite a lot there. Especially if you do think that we need to burn the present world down to fix it like Greta does. I wouldn't be surprised if Greta's out there in Australia setting those fires. No, I'm just kidding. Okay, I don't have it on hand, but look, we have a collaborative project here. If you go to, and I'll put a link below, flatearthstudios.com. A number of people like MVP here and others are contributing art now. This is one place where you can get a number of these maps also. Crisis actors. This one's sold. I did a painting of a banana duct taped to a wall. Didn't sell for $120,000, but I got $120 out of it. Anyway, if you want to support this channel, art is another way to do it. We also have a number of designs that are these are designs that I do on my phone. When I wake up, I usually draw these cats. These are called unicursals, meaning one line, the cat, and the mouse in this case, drawn with one long continuous line. Anyway, this is all on my site. You can check it out, flatearthstudios.com. I think I have a few other paintings you might find interesting if... Here you go. This is the David Hogg one. This is done by MVP. It's an original, and prints are probably going to be made available afterwards. Anyway, that's it. So look, I've got to take off. I think it's been... Henrik says the artwork looks satanic. What are you, a church lady? What's with all these church ladies? Like, look, if you're going to call my art or anybody's art satanic, I need to know. Are you in church on Sundays? Are you praying the rosary? You know, do you pray at night before you go to bed? You know, pray the Lord my soul to take whatever. Like, are you scared at night of this? I mean, that's so crazy. I don't really believe you. When I have people come along and they say, oh, that's evil, that's scary, it's like, I don't really think you're scared of all this stuff. I don't really think you're all just church ladies with fainting couches, offended. Uh-oh, that's a 6-pointed star, or whatever. Like, I really don't believe any of it. So, church ladies go to hell. Anyway, this is Infinite Gang by Neo Mode, and I'll put a link below. See you later.
It's a creeper beat, man. Come on. You know it.
You're playing, man. Infinite things, man. The play society. Infinite plane, infinite plane, infinite plane, infinite plane. Doing my thing, do my thing, do my thing, do my thing. Infinite plane, yeah. I live on an infinite plane. I live on an infinite plane. They telling me different things. I'm supposed to be pulling the strings, but I know they playing the games. Since I found out today, I live on an infinite plane. I ain't playing no games. I'm on a different plane. I live on an infinite plane. I know the news is fake. They're trying to choose my fate. I know the views is fake. They're pushing the global stage. Fake news on the radio wave. All the hope, the whole world is a stage. Body double like I'm Saddam Hussein. Doing my thing. Don't want the fame, just trying to make change. They think on my page. But I'm infinite gang, infinite plane. Playing no games. Infinite gang, we ain't playing no games. Infinite plane, I'm on an infinite plane. Infinite plane, the world that I live in is strange. Cause I'm on an infinite plane. I'm doing different things, yeah. I'm on an infinite plane. I'm on an infinite plane. I'm on an infinite plane. Stay with the infinite gang. Supposed to pull the strings, but they can't follow the game. I'm on the infinite plane. That's me on mouth, I stay more play. When I play society, all I do is black roll, I'm black roll. Just this, man. Can't take us down like this shit, man. Just shake that, check this back. Can't do it, man. Take it word of flat, man. Bro, the whole thing. I think it's down my shit right now, man. Shit, it's back like it's not real, man. Things like that, man. Check that, man. No telling you, man. I don't think you got shit, man. She already got it, man. I'm telling you right now, it's all the hooks, man. All the hooks, man. Shout out, what up, bro? Tim out, what up, bro? Yeah, man. globe is in my home. The globe is in my home. Globe, globe. The globe is my home. I'm so infinite, 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 infinite. Globe is in my home. The globe is in my home. Telling me the globe is my home. The globe is in my home. The globe is in my home. I'm so infinite. I'm so infinite. I'm so infinite. And I'm cutting it. I'm cutting it. I'm drilling it. And I said it's fake as shit. Yeah, I was in the basement. Now I'm in the spaceship, cause it's fake shit. Got on my camera, and I'm guiding the challenger. I'm smashing the actress, cause that's all that NASA is. Space isn't real, the stars are a spirit, and I'm trying to do it real. I'm counting it. Space is so fake. Nobody can relate. So infinite, yeah. I'm so infinite, 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 infinite. Oh, 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 I'm so different, different, infinite, yeah. Knowledge.